Yes, sir, we're ready.
Well, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started for the Economic Development Finance Committee. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a clear record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. on Thursday before the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each agenda item. Public comment will be allowed during each agenda item. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. Should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to the motives and personalities. I will now call this meeting of the Economic Development Finance Standing Committee for June 3rd, 2024 to order, and I will ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Wakes.
Present.
Lopez.
Here.
Burns.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Townsend. Burrows.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
There are no revisions.
Thank you. Committee, we have a few things to take care of first. First of all is the approval of minutes. They were included in your documents. I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes. Those minutes are from March 6th, 2023. Clerk, please call roll.
Wakes.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you, committee. The minutes have been approved. Committee, we have two items this evening for discussion. The first item is for information only, and it deals with the 2024 first quarter investment report. And I will recognize Andrea Vineyard, our Deputy Treasurer, for presentation and remarks. Andrea, please.
Thank you. Andrew Vineyard, Deputy Treasurer, here to report on the first quarter 2024 investment report, period of January 1 through March 31, 2024. Few key metrics: average yield was at 3.47, sitting at 162 days to maturity, which has gone down since quarter 4 of 2023. The portfolio stands of 61% in cash, which is about 201 million. And then the remaining amount, about 127 million, is going to be in the CDs and agencies that we have for our investment portfolio, totaling about 329 million in total. A little bit else, the maturity distribution, most of the investments are sitting in the less than a year. Then we've got 15% in 1 to 2 years and 6% in 2 to 3 years. Like I said in the prior slide, the average yield was at 3.47, which did go down as well from quarter 4 at 3.6, still remaining underneath the target T-bill rate, which was at 5.03 as of quarter 1 of 24. Total interest earned for the first quarter is 2.3 million. And as far as the type of securities we have in the investment portfolio, we've got about 60 million showing for CDs, which is about 18% of that portfolio. Then we have 67 million or 20% that are sitting in US agencies, totaling 329 million. Then I wanted to kind of go over, there was some activity that we did do in quarter 1. We had 2 items mature, just going to be there at the bottom. We had a treasury that was more of a long-term from October of 23, along with another maturity, which was a CD from UMB Bank that also matured. About 15 million came in, but we also put out about 20 million. We did an investment block and we had 3 different solicitations win. Capital Federal came back into the portfolio. They've been not on the portfolio for a few years. Then we had 2 agencies, Mishler and Oppenheimer, win investments as well. We did a stagger approach. So we kind of did a few, it was 2026, 27, and even used our expanded powers, which we have not done in a while, and went out to 2028. And the overnight, I wanted to point out, is still maintaining strong at 4.02. I do watch that pretty residually just to kind of make sure it adheres to our contract along with kind of where the rates are as a whole. With that, I believe that is my presentation for the evening.
Thank you. Any questions, committee? Commissioner,
What, when you say T-bills, you're talking about treasury bonds? Is that right?
Treasuries, yeah,
Yeah.
treasuries.
And then our ROIs, a return of on investment, that's our cash out or payout,
Say
right?
that again, I'm sorry.
Are the ROIs?
The return on interest,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Just want to make sure.
yeah. Thank you.
anyone else? Any questions? Commissioner Stites, any questions?
No.
Thank you. Andrea, I do have one. If the 2.3, we're looking at possibly a 9 million in investments this year, potential, if the return stays, the interest rates stay at least 4,
Yes,
we're looking at, that's
yes.
good.
Like I said, in the first quarter, we were at 6 last year. We keep projecting forward. That's estimated what I'm thinking we're going to be at.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Kudos. And the next question I would have is on the very front part of your presentation. I see the numbers on the total portfolio. The middle number is a little larger than the, or a little smaller than the other 2, especially when it says federal agency securities. The numbers don't add up in those 3 columns. Is there a reason why that middle number on the federal securities is different than the, you see where I'm talking on the front page? Down there where it says federal securities, just above total securities,
Mhm.
the 3 numbers, 67,511, and it goes to 67,382, and then 67,512. So they bounce around there a little bit. Is it because they're not ready to be paid out as a part of the tiering, or is there a discount there?
There's a discount, heavy discount, and we like to watch them mature. We make sure we're trying to get as much of a discount when we go out for those as we can.
Okay,
And our outside agency, Baker Tilly, also advises of that. So we do watch for the amortization costs and a heavy discount.
okay,
So I'm running the market value before I come to you to report what they are right now.
wonderful. Thank you. I anticipated such, but I wanted to ensure. I don't like to take anything for granted.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other questions from the committee, Commissioner Lopez.
Just a real quick question. Oppenheimer, they got hit with some serious fines for record failures. Why are we still doing business with them?
It's a great question. I don't think I have the answer for that today, but I would be happy to take that back and talk with the whole finance committee about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other questions from the committee, I'll ask the clerk if there are any hands raised in public that wish to speak.
No hands raised online.
Is there any comments that were received from the public?
No comments were received.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Let the record show no one step forward. Thank you, committee. This is for information purposes only. Andrea, thank you. Appreciate ladies for all the information and kudos, $9 million, 3 million more than we had last year.
Yeah. Have a great night.
That's good news.
Thank you.
I do like that tiered approach. Committee, our next issue is a resolution, and this will take, this is an action item. It's setting the public hearing for the American Royal Development Project. I would ask all those that are going to speak to please step forward and make a spot at the table for questions that we may have. And this is the last item on our agenda. It's setting a time and place for the public hearing regarding star bond districts for the American Royal Development Project. I'll ask Jeff Conway from our legal department for presentation and remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Conway, UG Legal. You pretty much stated exactly what the item is. And I guess a football analogy would be if the American Royal is a football game, this is just the kickoff. This is just a single play to start the ball rolling. And so there's certain ways you have to do it based on the statute. And depending on if you're pointing towards August 1st, you have to kind of move backwards. And so it would set it up for the hearings, the public hearings. You have to have advance notice of the hearings. And so there's publication dates. And so that would put us to about right now. So this would be approving the setting of the public hearing on the amending of the Star Bonds District and the project plan areas 1, 2, and 3. But that's for later. And we've got a lot of discussions ongoing with American Royal right now that you may see later at probably the July ED&F meeting and further steps along the way. So this just starts the process tonight. And Todd LaSalle is here with outside counsel Stinson, Kevin Wempe with Gilmore and Bell, the bond counsel, developer counsel, I think is here as well, Kevin Lee, Polsinelli. But there's really no heavy lifting tonight. It's just basically this kickoff resolution.
Yeah, Jeff, this is Todd LaSalle. I agree. Jeff said this very well. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of process involved in the Star Bond statute. As Jeff said, we're really trying to get everything in front of the full commission on August 1st. In order to do that, you really have to start now because you have publications, you have to go to commission to set a public hearing. That's got to be 30 to 70 days in advance. And there are a couple of publication notices as well. So it's a very long process. We're starting now. There isn't a ton of substance tonight, but we are deep in negotiations with the American Royal about the development agreement. It is our hope that we're going to be back in front of this committee in July with a development agreement and an awful lot more detail about what the deal will be. But in order to try and land these airplanes at the same time, right, the development agreement, as well as the procedural part of this, with all these steps, we had to start tonight. So Jeff said this very well. It's the advancement of an amendment to our district and a couple of project plans. We're happy to go into more detail if you want, but Jeff's analogy about this being the start of the process is, I think, exactly right.
Thank you, Mr. LaSalle. Committee, any questions? Commissioner Stites, I can't see your hand, so I just want to make sure that if you have any questions, that would be the time to pose them.
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LaSalle, is this to be fast-tracked to Thursday's meeting?
No, Commissioner, it wouldn't. This will come to I believe it's your July 27th full commission meeting. And at that point, I'm sorry, my fault, June 27th commission meeting. And it will also head to Planning Commission for a conformance finding before that. But if the committee advances this tonight, yet the full commission will hear it on June 27th.
No questions from committee? Okay. I'll ask the clerk if there was any comments received from the public.
No comments were received.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk if there are any hands raised by the public who wish to speak.
No hands are raised online.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item? Let the record show no one stepped forward. Okay, committee, I would now entertain a motion for approval of resolution setting the date and time of the public hearing regarding the Star Bond districts for the American Royal Development Project. And I just want to state, this just sets in motion for approval, just the resolution for the date of the, in time for the public hearing as they continue to negotiate.
Absolutely correct.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Wakes,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you, committee. Committee, that concludes our meeting for this evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call roll. Or we have a motion and a second. Please call roll.
Roll call, Wakes,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Burns.
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Please be advised that the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee will convene in about 5 minutes, as soon as we clear the room. Thank you, committee. Thank you, public.
the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee. Today is June 3rd. It's Monday. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. When speaking, please speak directly into a microphone to ensure everyone listening is able to hear your comments and to ensure a public record is made. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so that the public knows and those that are observing know who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and this current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by mail prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the 5th floor conference room of the municipal office building. Public comments will be allowed during each agenda item. Public comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure and should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. With that, I will call the meeting to order for the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee for June 3rd, 2024. Clerk, can we get a roll?
Roll call. Hill. Here. Ramirez.
Here.
Townsend. Bynum. Here. Davis.
Here. Thank you so much. Clerk, are there any revisions to the agenda?
There are no revisions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our April 3rd, 2023 meeting. Are there any questions or is there a motion?
Bynum, so moved.
Second.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Clerk, can we get a roll?
Roll call. Hill. Aye. Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. All right. Second order of business is the infill housing waiving of fees. That resolution here is brought for us by legal. So legal, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. This is Wendy Green, Deputy Chief Counsel for the Unified Government. And if we could get that PowerPoint pulled up, please. Thank you. So we previously had resolution number 76-21, which was adopted in October 28th of 2021. And what that did is it waived certain fees for any new residential development or for infill housing that it was brought upon by east of 78th Street. Now, what had to happen though is it had to have existing sewer systems in place. So it wouldn't have been for a house or it wouldn't have been for a property that never had anything there before. So it had to have that in place first because we weren't going to waive putting a new system in place to that property. So if it had a sewer system in place, then we would go ahead and waive those fees. It did last for a period of 2 years from the date of adoption. So that waiver did lapse last October. And the permitted fees that included were building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, driveway, sewer connection, and lateral sewer connection. And part of that resolution directed UG staff to track some performance indicators to measure the success of these fee waivers. And then the indicators they were supposed to track were number of homes built, population count, number of new commercial developments in the area, and crime rate statistics. So during that time frame, and what I asked different staff in the UG to help me with, and thank you very much to the NRC staff that helped me get most of this. We do have Greg talking here in case you have any questions. From the date of the adoption of the resolution. So this isn't all of 2021. It's just from the date of the adoption of the resolution to when it expired. We had those following permits issued in 2021. We had 4 for single family. And these are all, again, just single family homes. We didn't have any permits issued for duplexes during any of this time. So 2022 had 36 and 2023 had 43. Those were the estimated building permit fees that were waived for each of those years. And again, those are just approximate numbers. Those weren't exact numbers. For public works, those were the estimated, they couldn't quite tell us because they did have a system change. So they couldn't quite tell us what the fees were that were waived for that short amount of time in 2021. But for 2022, that was the approximate amount of fees waived for the sewer connection fees. And for 2023, you had that 25,000 plus figure for the number of fees that were waived. For the number of new commercial developments, that 49 number is based off of new builds or substantial capital improvements. That was the number of DRC reviews that took place from that October date until that resolution expired in 2023. So some of those are still being developed, but that's everything that took place in between that time frame. And again, some of them were existing developments, but they took on a great capital improvement. So they completely remodeled, maybe they became different businesses, but it was substantial enough that it was considered more of a new business in an existing building rather than a completely new development, or it was a completely new development. We also had other figures that the NRC was able to provide me after that time frame, and it was they were able to give me a summary of the value of the jobs that were applied for in 2021. From that date, it was $138,955,715. So a summary of the total fees that would have been paid, it was over $878,000 for 2022. The job value was almost $225 million, and the fees paid would have been a little over $1 million. For 2023, it was just a little over $242 million, and the fees paid were a little over almost $729,000. So it was a lot of commercial development that did take place during that time frame. And unfortunately, the population statistics, I was able to get that. The health department is the one that does track population statistics. But they haven't finalized the number yet for 2023, but they do it by zip code, which is helpful. So they were able to track anything east of 78th Street. So for 2021, the population, and again, but they didn't have it broken down after that October date. So 2021, the population was 108,246 for those zip codes that make up the population east of 78th Street. And for 2022, it was 109,493. And again, I don't have the numbers for 2023. So there we have the resolution. We were also asked to provide information. What did BPU do? Because they also waived some fees during this time frame. So up there, I've provided what BPU did. The resolutions were a little bit different. And what they did was in resolution number 5297, which they passed earlier this year in April, they authorized the general manager to waive certain electric and water fees for infill housing. They targeted east of 635 and said it would be available for some areas between 78th Street and 635. They allowed a waiver of permits and connection fees for certain land bank lots east of 78th Street used for residential construction of single-family homes and duplexes. An example of the fees in their resolution was a temporary electric service fee, overhead electric service drop allowance, residential water tap fee, and water system development. But it would be considered and granted on an individual basis. So it wouldn't be a wholesale waiver. And the reason why is because different buildings would need different things. So depending on the size of the house or the size of whatever was existing at the time, it might require different service connections. So they would look at it on an existing basis. This resolution, though, was only going to be effective until December 31st, 2025. They also passed resolution number 5298 at the same time. And that resolution, if I can get all my paperwork ready, authorized the general manager to waive system development and tap fees for new single-family residential construction east of 635. And the property must have previously had a BPU water service line in place. It had to, that new service must require a 5/8 inch meter and be owned by an individual. And the existing water line must be of an adequate size to provide domestic service and fire protection and front the property. So there are very specific guidelines that this resolution required. And it was also only going to be effective until December 31st, 2025. So in the resolution that's before you tonight, that's been proposed, it would do the exact same thing as the previous resolution. But what we've done in drafting it is left the period of years blank so that you have an option. We have option A, B, or C, which is for 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. And I am getting some communication that the screen is a little blurry to folks. So I know we've been having tech issues for a while. So we are aware, we're doing our best to fix it and keep the meeting going. Thank you so much.
Sure. And I'll go ahead and put that last slide back up there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do questions and then we'll go to public comment. But any preliminary questions, committee, before we hear from the public? Yes, Dr. Hill.
I just have a couple. Number one, why was there just a 2-year and then it's cut off? Oh, I'm sorry. Why was there just a 2-year cut off?
Are you talking about for the last resolution
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see.
or for the BPU?
No, I think not the BPU. Yeah, prior resolution 7621.
Well, actually wasn't part of drafting that resolution, so maybe Commissioner Bynum can speak to that issue.
I do think part of it was, thank you, Wendy, we wanted that measurement. And so when you look at the slides, they wanted to measure how many houses, and then what impact did it have on commercial development? What impact did it have on population? And I think it was with the intention that we stop and measure,
Okay.
did this work?
Okay, thank you. And then my last question was about BPU. It required a 5/8 inch meter and it was to be owned by the individual. Is that normal practice anyway?
No, I mean, they do allow for commercial developers. So if you have a commercial developer that comes in and then sells off the property, they just are not going to allow a fee waiver to a developer. That's only going to be for an individual who's building a house.
Okay.
Mhm.
You also let, excuse me, also let just the public know, 2 years is not that much time. So in conversation with Mayor Garner on this, that's where the options for the different years came up. It's really hard to tell. And let's just be honest, 2021 is COVID. So who knows what those numbers would have been had we not had the pandemic. And so there's also this question of, we kind of take those numbers with the understanding that our economy was in duress and development was in duress during that time. And so these options, and it can be any amount of years, but these options before us allow us to go a little bit further than that, so we can quantify the progress of that. Any other questions, committee, before I ask for public comment? Any questions from Commissioner Ramirez online?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments from the public.
No comments were received.
I'll ask the clerk if there are any hands raised by the public who wish to speak.
No hands raised online.
Okay. For those that are here in the room, is there anybody that would like to speak on this particular item? Awesome. Yes, go ahead and make your way over. Comments should be limited to the item at hand and per the commission rules of procedure. It should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak, and please state your name and city of residence for the record. Make sure it's green. Yeah, go ahead and speak into it just so we can make sure we hear you.
Hello,
Awesome. Yep, go for it.
good evening. My name is Fran Sutton. I am the broker owner of Gemini 2 Realtors, established in Wyandotte County in 1979. I am also the general contractor owner of Fran Sutton Homes, FMJ Properties, established in 2021. Last year, I had the pleasure of working with Plan KCK. And as a part of that commitment to continued economic growth in KCK, I am building homes that are affordable and attainable to a broad spectrum of buyers that are in today's real estate market. I have 4 land bank properties in queue right now. I got approval for 2 of them last week and ended up writing a check for over $900 for licensing that I did not expect to write because I had originally thought that they were covered under the fee waiver. But I have a goal of 80 more in the next 5 years. The fee waivers can be used as a vehicle. The fee waivers are an average of $4,200 in savings per property. And that is fairly equally split between BPU and the UG. So it's an average of $4,200. With current interest rates being high and inventory being low, I feel like these fee waivers could be a vehicle to allow sellers or builders to perhaps provide closing cost assistance for buyers that might need that. So with a goal of 80 homes in the next 5 years, that is my part to potentially provide over $32,000 in closing cost assistance
You have 1
to
minute remaining.
buyers in our market. I would respectfully request that you would consider approving, reinstating the fee waiver for at least 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the gallery that would like to make a public comment on this item? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, any questions or comments regarding this item? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. I was leaning toward 2 years, but I think now I'm leaning to 5. I still like the notion of measuring. Council, within the ordinance itself, I don't necessarily see, yeah, here it is. Directed to track key performance indications. I just wonder if there's something else to measure that would be beneficial. And I'm kind of looking at staff, if you think there's a different measurement that could be taken. Obviously, number of homes built's a good one. I didn't know if anybody on staff had thoughts about something different that would measure success of a program like this. And if not, that's okay.
This is when we with legal. Oh, go ahead. Would you like to go first, Dr. Hill? Really, when I was gathering the information, I really couldn't think of anything else that might have been beneficial. to put in the presentation. So I honestly, I don't know that I could offer anything else that would be beneficial to track.
And so we would leave the key performance indicators in, but I'd be willing to support 5 years.
Yes, Dr. Hill.
Just a real quick question. Is there a way to still take the measurements every 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. This is just a resolution. It's not an ordinance. So if anybody wanted, you could either put it in the resolution or just do an ask as the standing committee chair. He could just say, hey, could you guys come back and present on how it's going? You wouldn't even have to put it in the resolution necessarily. So yes, absolutely. We could come back in 2 years after it's stopped and let you know how it's going.
Mr. Hand, you have.
Hunter Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. I wouldn't necessarily think it was a metric, but the only other thought that I would add is when the unified government begins the process to update its zoning code, it could expand the different typologies that are allowed in Kansas City, Kansas. And therefore you all could potentially consider in the future expanding the typologies we would want to extend to this and or track, right? So if we perhaps hypothetically say allow accessory dwelling units, that would potentially fit within this category. And you might want to not only track how many single family homes or duplexes, but how many of those then have accessory dwelling units as well. So things like that potentially could come into play as we think through the zoning code update.
Yeah. I know the public comment is ended, so I've told folks, okay, just kind of email me or text me. So sales price was one idea that was brought to my attention, as well as the value of properties built was another idea. Again, this is, and I'm saying this, I'm not on staff. It's a fairly broad and really defined boundary. So there's a lot of things that we can just draw the line and say, all right, 78th Street East, and get really, really good data, all kinds of data on that. And so we could add more, we can leave it as is, we can wait and see at that, 2-year period or what have you, what other, details are requested. But this is by no means complete, right? There may be some things we want to measure in the future that we're not even thinking of right now.
We have Commissioner Ramirez with his hand raised.
Okay, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the 5-year option as well, and I also support what Commissioner Hill said about every 2 years. It's good to have updated information come to us as frequently as possible. So I think if we can request every 2 years an update of how this resolution is going, I think would be awesome.
Okay. ACA House, did you have something?
Yeah, so Alan House, System Administrator. I think the other part to keep in mind of the performance measures is that any structure that was built under this would also be eligible for the neighborhood revitalization program, which is 10-year property tax abatement. So it may be a little challenging and sort of tease apart the effects of one or the other. I mean, in totality, it's a significant amount of abatement or incentive for builders, but how much is relative to this versus the NRA be a little more challenging to discern.
Just to get clarity in what you're saying, ACA House, you're saying we may not, there are a lot of factors that could contribute to a boom or bust or stagnation east of 78th Street infill housing development. Are you saying because we also have another incentive, it might be hard to say it's because of this particular resolution that this particular phenomenon is taking place? Is that what you're saying?
I think the concept behind the conversation is measuring the effectiveness of this particular tool to drive the outcomes that you're desiring, and just putting in a little asterisk there that says there's another sort of similar parallel thing that will apply to these same properties that also has significant sort of financial benefit to the builders that can then pass on to people that they sell the property to. So just sort of teasing those apart at the end of this 5-year period or during this 5-year period may be more challenging from that perspective. And I think you just sort of have to keep those two in mind because they're working in concert on the same properties, same projects.
Yeah, understood. So committee, what I'm hearing is 5 years for sure, but a 2-year report out. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Legal, would we need to codify any of that language, or would that just be something that can be requested at that time? What would be your recommendation?
Right. You could do it either way. If you wanted to codify it, I would suggest that we would do that within section 3, or you could just make it as the chair could just have come back in 2 years and make that a request to staff. You could do it either way.
Committee, I think we have a pathway forward. Is there a preference on codifying it or kind of leaving it up to the chair discretion?
Question.
Yeah.
The resolution as it's written doesn't really have a fill in the blank end date. So I think that if we're going to say 5 years, then I guess that should go in section 5, council.
No, it goes into section 1.
Section 1.
And it's right. And it's effective upon the adoption. So it would end 5 years from the date of adoption.
Okay, and then got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So what I'm hearing is we are good with the resolution. We're good with it for 5 years, a 2-year report out. That report out will just kind of, because I feel like there's a lot of things we can put in there. I think within that report out, the committee at that time can make, the baseline would be these 4. But if there are other items, the committee can absolutely request that those other items be reported on that time as well. How does that sound for everyone? Okay. To kind of help this move along, because this might be an interesting motion, I'll make one. I will move to approve for a 5-year period with the understanding that a 2-year report out on the 4 metrics and whatever other metrics the Committee for Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee decides at that time.
I would request a fast track.
Oh, yes. I will also, thank you. I actually have notes on that.
Oh.
I'll amend my motion to include a fast track. So I'll restate my motion, move to approve for 5 years with the understanding that there will be a 2-year report out and a fast track to the June 6, 2024 full commission meeting.
Item second.
All right. If that motion is good, legal and clerk's office, just want to make sure that is understood. Awesome. If there's no other questions, clerk, can we have the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. All right. We are moving along. The next set of this agenda, quite frankly, is very exciting. If you're a kind of a policy nerd like me, I think we might be approving more land bank applications tonight than maybe last year. I don't know. I don't know if we have data on that, but we might be putting up some interesting stats here. So, Mr. Knapp, I know we've had some discussions because, and let me make sure I'm pronouncing their name. Is it Burum or Burcham? Burcham. So Burcham Residential Committee, they have put in an application for 166 homes. Accompanied with their application is a pretty extensive PowerPoint. To not hold all of the other land bank applications hostage to that giant request, what I am wanting our staff to do is save that large request for 166 homes last. That way we can give everybody else their opportunity, and then we'll come back to Burcham. How does that sound, everybody? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, Mr. Knapp, we'll start again. You'll go the regular flow, but we're going to leave, this will be A12, Bircham Residential for 166 homes. We'll leave that last. Everything else will go through.
All right, thank you. So we'll start with the A section. I do have a couple that dropped out within like the past 15 minutes. So I'm going to remove A10 from here. They accidentally applied for the wrong lot and they're going to come back next month with the correct lot. And then B1 was also removed by the applicant. And I think I can get through them all in one set. There's not really many issues with them. I will explain the issues when I get to them. A1 is for CHWC. This is in the River's Edge East subdivision. It's 3037 North 18th Street. CHWC has built, I believe it's 8 homes they have built currently in this subdivision. They initially did not apply for this lot because they thought it was too hilly to build on. But since they built on the house, the lot next to it, they said that we could build on that one. So they came back for that lot. A2 is at 3000 North 40th Street. This is with Chris Solutions. He's already built a handful of homes already on land bank lots. There's actually a picture of one that he's actually built. And then A3, there's actually 2 here. They're kind of spread out. The first one's at 4045 Yecker Avenue, and the second one is at 4937 Roland Avenue. They're both for single family homes. A4 is by Pillar Construction. They have also built several homes on land bank lots. This one is at 3012 North 63rd Street. A5 is also Pillar Construction at 10023 Ann Avenue. A6 is at 3006 Hutchinson Street. This is, if I zoom out a little bit, this is the first application we've received outside of this River's Edge East subdivision that CHWC is building. So it's kind of expanding out. I did have the OCP neighborhood group did oppose this application. They said that they wanted to meet with Groundworks, their MBR, before they can make a decision. But I did send this out May 10th. I did email them today and got a couple of emails back and forth, and basically that meeting hasn't happened yet. A7 is at 1022 Barnett Avenue, another single family home. A8 is at 240 South Bethany Street. Staff did have some comments for this. This home has 238 feet of frontage. To be consistent, staff said that we should probably split that into, there's 8 parcels underneath this parcel, so we could split it up to stay consistent with our density comments that we have. But staff's comment was maybe we could split it into 4 lots of 50 feet apiece and get 4 homes on this. But if you look at this, the east side of the street, those are 25-foot lots packed in there. But on the west side of the street, there's a farm, a big lot, so it kind of would match the neighborhood if this was left the same. We have in the past told the builder that they have to build 4 homes here, or we could just have them build 1. All right, A9 is at 102 North Early Street. It's just another single family home. Staff didn't have any comments on this one. A10 was, we removed that application. You'll see another one from this applicant next month. A11 is 2452 South 12th Terrace. There's 2 here. They want to build the same house right across the street from each other. That takes me into, I'm going to skip A12. So B1 was removed, but this is in that River's Edge East subdivision. It was removed because It's currently zoned R2, but the plat for this River Edge East subdivision is for a single family home only. So I went back to the applicant. I said, you're going to have to build a single family home, and that he didn't like that. So we're working with him to find him some more duplex zone property so he could build his duplexes on. But CHWC is coming back next month requesting a slot. We'll see this one next month. B2 is at 711 Greeley Avenue. It is zoned M2, but this is a split zoned parcel. So this parcel will have to be rezoned. So that would require another public meeting. The OCP neighborhood group had the same comment for this one, that they needed to meet with their MBR groundworks first. They were in opposition to this one. B3 is at 2219 South Ferry Street. Ryan Barr has built one home on the land bank lot already. And he actually has another one on the same street, so he's going to build it together. C1 is a commercial property at 1139 Minnesota Avenue. This is one of our land bank builders that are actually building several homes, and they kind of want to build an office on Minnesota. And then property transfer. This is item 3 on our list. This is for an unbuildable lot. There's a stormwater asset on this lot. The neighbor across the street, 5034, is going to pay to replat the area, hopefully get rid of this right away so we could have it. Basically, the land bank can't do anything with this property. So, commissioners, that sums up my items.
Thank you so much, committee. I know that was quite something. Just a lot of items to go through. So I'm sure folks have some questions, and then we'll jump to public comment. Any questions, committee? Okay. Any questions online from Commissioner Ramirez? Okay. All right, then we're going to go ahead and jump to public comments. So clerk, are there any comments that were received from the public?
No comments were received.
So if there are any hands raised online for any of the items that we have gone over.
There are no hands raised online.
Okay. We'll turn here to the gallery. Are there any hands up? Would anybody like to speak on the applications listed? Let the record reflect, no one raised their hand. Awesome. I'll go ahead and close the public comment. We are going to return to a 12, so there will be an opportunity for that, a large application as well. The public comment portion has closed. Committee, any questions, or is there a motion? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you. On B2, 1711 Greeley, the advisory board comments are that the MBR supports the neighborhood group's decision, and the neighborhood group says would like the opportunity to meet with the MBR to discuss. It comments the MBR supports using equitable development and anti-displacement scoring matrix. And Elnora, I know you're here and I know you didn't stand up, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but in one of the emails that we received working with Vibrant Health, and they did the strategy session, she referenced that scoring matrix was in that packet we got at their strategic planning session. Otherwise, I don't remember it. I don't know what it looks like. I'm searching my emails to see if we've ever received it. I don't know what it says. So forgive me if we have received it and I just don't know what's in it, because I don't know what to do with this comment. The MBR supports using equitable development and anti-displacement scoring matrix on all land bank applications in its service area. I would use that if I had it and knew it and understood it, but I don't, and I don't know what to do about that.
In fairness, Ms. Jefferson, if you'd like to approach, if you'd like to, I don't want to just put you on the spot, but
Thank you.
yeah.
And that can include if you've given it to me and I just don't remember, it's okay to say that.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open public comment. Ms. Jefferson. Oh, make sure it's on.
Green means on. I got it. Okay, good evening and thank you very much. Elnora Jefferson, Kansas City, Kansas. The equitable scorecard that's mentioned in that comment, Commissioner Bynum, has to do with the prototype that is located in the Northeast KCK Heritage Trail. It's one that talks about the equitable development and also the anti-displacement strategy. It is a prototype, and what we're suggesting by that, as well as later on when I have opportunity to speak, is that that be refined and also adopted to be put into the policy. So therefore, everyone sees what that is. So, does that answer your question?
You know, and when you're speaking of it, I do remember it as it relates to the Heritage Trail. And I'm looking at that right now and I'll try to find it.
Page 73.
Page 73. Unless staff wants to help me with any verbiage that you might want to share.
Mr. Hand, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. During the process of the Northeast Kansas Heritage Trail Plan, which was a part of the larger GoDOT Countywide Mobility Strategy Plan, which was adopted in 2022, I think. It did include a tool to score infill development specifically in the Northeast, essentially around the Heritage Trail. But again, the Heritage Trail, if you've seen it in its full coverage area, does include a vast majority of the Northeast. I believe during the land bank policy update, which we'll talk about later on the agenda tonight, as Ms. Jefferson noted, she has been advocating that that tool be refined to be another sort of metric as a part of all land bank requests. So it would require a little bit of tweaking. It would require it to be a little more inclusive in the sense that it was really targeted for sort of kind of larger projects, but also commercial projects. So we'd have to figure out a way to connect it to predominantly single family infill projects, which is the majority of what we see currently through these through the land bank process. All doable.
Thank you, Mr. Hand. Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Okay. Committee, other questions or comments? Okay. So I think, and I know I don't want to get ahead of the policy conversation because I know that is what will be coming next. The options that are kind of before us right now is to approve or disapprove of, these particular applications. If the scorecard is of interest, from what I'm looking at here, it will take quite a heavy lift to have there be some sort of an alignment between our current land bank application process and then what is currently being presented within this plan. Whether or not we should make a decision on these particular applications based upon that is the committee's discretion. But I do want, folks to just be aware there are quite a bit of considerations that are before or that are listed within the Heritage Trail that is quite extensive. And so we would have to be very thoughtful and really think through. We have over 4,500 parcels within our land bank inventory. And so does this help or does this add a particular step for us to responsibly dispose of those items. Again, that would be up to this committee and of course, up to the full commission. With that, I do know that staff has gone through all of the applications with the exception of, I believe it was A12 of that large application as well. I'll go ahead and close the public comment period, although I do appreciate that impromptu exchange. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
So that being said, I think I see at least 4 land bank applications that are situated in the Northeast. Judd, would you just scroll with me and confirm? I think there's at least 4 Northeast situated land bank parcels in this grouping.
Yes, Commissioner, that's my count.
So if we were gonna put a lens on one, we'd put a lens on all, I would think, or approve these and then have that larger conversation with the adoption of the policy. So I would make a motion to approve the land bank options as they've been presented.
I'll go ahead and second that motion. Any other questions or comments? Okay, clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call, Hill,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Mr. Knapp, I know we have this larger application. Is it A12? Did I get that correct? I think it's
A12.
It is A12. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and take it away, Mr. Knapp.
All right, the developer is here to present this for you.
Awesome,
So
welcome.
it's not just me, but a little summary of it. It's 166 homes on 138 lots. It's going to be built on 25-foot lots. So if the lot is big, they're going to split it. This presentation will cover quality of construction. Can the developer build the project? Local people are going to build it. And I'll hand it over to Eric here.
Okay, before we get started, I saw 50 slides on there. Is it your intention to go through each slide individually, or are we just going to get kind of a synopsis?
Well, we've done 3 meeting associations with the neighborhood associations. And honestly, I've found it easier just to go through the presentation because we get a lot of questions and all the questions are usually answered in the slides. I will try not to keep us here for hours, but I'm aware that it's a lot, but I'm trying to provide a lot of information for you.
Okay, awesome. Just wanted to get some clarity on that. All right, take it away.
All right, well, I'd like to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to speak here. Also Judd as well has been very helpful kind of navigating this process to get to this point. Definitely grateful for just being here and allowing me to have this conversation with you all.
Can you say your name and then just city of residence?
So I'm Eric Domino and I live in Overland Park, Kansas.
And then of course the organization, not your.
And so this is Bertram Residential. We develop factory-built housing communities, which we'll get into in just a second. Oh, here we go. Oh, all right, perfect. All right, so we got the summary here. This is one of the slides that we can move along and not spend too much time on. All right, perfect. So this is kind of just an overview of, why I do what I do. Hopefully you guys can, kind of hear some of the passion I have for housing and, specifically why I'm looking to do this project here in Kansas City. So generally we kind of understand that there's a housing shortage. That's why housing is not affordable for the majority of people. One of these charts here on the left is kind of described from CBRE. There's 3 million homes that are a shortage currently in the United States. A lot of people think multifamily, maybe we can fill all these housing shortages with 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms. You kind of look at the data, what it's really telling us is that The shortage is in 3 and 4 bedroom homes. So that's particularly what I focus on. A lot of people, a lot of millennials similar to myself, we're forming families, having children, and a lot of people are moving from those 2 bedrooms into larger and larger units. So that's basically what this slide is telling us. It's just that, yes, there's a supply shortage. There's huge demand. That demand is actually in larger units in 3 and 4 bedroom homes. So a little bit about myself. So what we do is we develop communities of factory-built housing. I'll kind of get into what factory-built housing is, specifically looking at 3 and 4 bedroom single-family homes. So we will build single-family homes for rent and for sale. I'll give you an idea of some of the projects we're currently doing. One of them is down in Johnson County, which is using the Clayton's Cross Mod products of factory-built housing to do a 200 home subdivision. The reason I focus on factory-built housing is because of the ability to build the vertical improvements. So everything from the foundation up, you can build that for about 30% less than what a traditional site-built manufacturer can do. So what that allows you to do is then price your homes for rent, for sale at more attainable levels. So it's kind of it's not new, but it's definitely coming along in terms of what, kind of the standard of building is. So we'll just go quickly through the factory-built housing. A lot of people, when I say that, they don't understand what I'm saying. So I've gotten used to kind of putting this slide in all the presentations I do. So there's a number of different housing types. You can start there at the bottom. RVs, that is a home. It moves around on wheels. There's tiny homes, which we've seen in a couple projects here in the city. There's manufactured homes. There's cross mod, which is what we'd be using here. There's modular. Modular is more of a, it comes in multiple sections. They kind of crane it on all together. With cross mod, it's one home that is brought on the site and contains all of the plumbing fixtures, appliances, all of that. It includes higher roof pitches. It's placed on permanent foundations. The permanent foundation aspect is extremely, extremely important for factory-built housing, because if it's on a permanent foundation, it can be sold, appraised, financed, and bought exactly like a site-built single-family home. So that is a very, very key distinction on when you talk about factory-built housing. And then another one that you've kind of seen here on some land bank lots is panelized homes. This is, think just walls, maybe sections of walls that are built prefab and then brought on site. So again, just kind of a little bit about why factory-built housing is, in my opinion, one of the, not the only, but one of the solutions for what we're seeing in terms of the housing crisis. So the number one thing I think is the quality. When I kind of explain a bit and think about it, the assembly line changed the car industry, right? There were cars before Henry Ford came in, but what they did is they made the production of those cars significantly more efficient, bringing the cost down. So it wasn't just rich people or wealthy people that can afford a car. It was now, what I consider, a normal person, right, can afford a car at this point. So that's basically how I think about factory-built housing. What it does is you're able to build very, very high quality stuff, but you can do it also incredibly efficient. So just down at the bottom, what you'll see is just some timelines on what traditional, kind of what I'll call site built product. So apartment buildings typically takes about 16 months. Site built home, this comes from the US Census data, about six months to build a site built home. The cross mod home that we're talking about here, you can build in 2 months. So we're talking about getting housing to the people who need it most incredibly fast with incredibly high precision. The other one wonderful benefit of factory-built housing is you can also do the site work. So you can put your foundation in, you can put your utilities in while the home's getting built in the factory, and it comes together relatively quickly after that. So one of the major concerns that we got from the neighborhood associations that we met with was the quality of these homes. I think there is a misconception of what factory-built housing could be. A lot of people think a mobile home, They haven't built mobile homes in 70 years, it's since 1970. The quality of construction in factory-built housing has just exponentially gotten better in the last 5 years. The reasons for that, controlled environment. So these homes, you don't have to worry about the storm that comes through and destroys the framing. It's all built in factory on an assembly line. So the precision of this construction is top notch. One of the other major things here is the quality control. So these homes are inspected 20 times before they come out of the factory. 16 different stations. Every single station has a QC supervisor. So before it even moves down the line, it's inspected for its specific component right there. And then you can see just some of the other inspections that we have in these. So the builder of these homes is called Champion Home Builders. They are one of the largest home manufacturers in the United States. These homes would come out of a factory in Ark City, Kansas, so just south of Wichita, about an hour or so, right on the border of Oklahoma and Kansas. There's a number of home builders in this space. They were specifically selected because for the last 4 years in a row, they've consistently won the highest quality home manufacturer and most trusted. So that was a major concern that we had from the neighborhood associations and from me personally as a developer. Like, I take a lot of pride in what we build, and it's got to be high quality and done exceptionally well. So that's kind of like the primer. What is factory-built housing? So this is the actual project, which we'll be looking for approval for today. So Bertram, so me as the developer is going to work with a nonprofit, Jubilee Housing. That is a nonprofit out of Washington, D.C. The reason they were selected is because they are a huge advocate for factory-built housing. So they do a lot of what I'd consider lobbying on the Capitol Hill. We've done other projects with them in the past, and they're very, very high quality nonprofit partner who focuses on deeply affordable homes. So there's a strong alignment between what we do and what they believe in as well. So 138 lots. We've heard a couple times that the city or the kind of the staff wants some of the larger lots to be broken down into 25 feet wide lots. Taking that into consideration, and that's why we end up with about 166 homes. So we'll show you a map of where these homes are at, and we'll have different dots that show which lots are kind of broken down into smaller. These homes are all going to be three bedroom, 2 bath, about 1,056 square feet. And they'll be rented between about 1,160 to 1,680. This project will be built through the low income housing tax credit program, and then made for sale at the end of the 15-year compliance period. That sale will be given an option for the then in place resident. So the whole goal of this project is to build housing that is stable, safe, high quality for families and individuals. And at the end of that period, allow them to become homeowners as well. So just a floor plan, since a lot of people, obviously want to see what they're living in, right? So this is all going to meet the narrow lot design guidelines established by the planning department. We'll have a 6-foot porch on the front. You'll have your living space and then your bedrooms in the back. There's going to be some variation between these floor plans because not every lot is the same depth. We'll have a pretty similar width, but some lots are 110 feet, some are 120. So these homes will be kind of stretched and shrunk slightly to accommodate the size of the lots. And so these are kind of what they look like. We'll see some more pictures of the exteriors of the homes when I talk about some of the past projects we've done at the end of this presentation, specifically the one in Johnson County in South OP. So just renderings of what we see. So we'll have, the whole goal here is to create homes that look like the community, so that we want them to match what's already in there. We are going to, there's going to be a number of homes on the same street. So the goal is to not have any home on the same street look exactly the same. We're trying to move away from what I'd call like track homes. So like traditional subdivisions, like the cookie cutter approach. The nice thing about factory-built housing is that you can get some customization in terms of what they look like and not lose that efficiency of the housing. Some standard unit amenities. So these are extremely efficient homes. We've done studies on these homes in the past. They save you about $700 in utilities compared to other site-built homes. So that's $60 a month for individuals and families. That can make a big difference, right? So the energy efficiency is crucial here. The construction itself is also very efficient. So if you go into one of these factories, you can literally fit all of the waste from these homes in a single trash bin. So they don't waste anything. They're super efficient and great for the environment. The permanent foundations, like I mentioned before, very, very important feature. And then just high quality fixtures and appliances. So these are some of the interior finishes. These are actual photos from the project we've done in Johnson County. The finishes and the stainless steel appliances would be exactly the same. And so, some of the other comments we got from the neighborhood associations were, we want these homes to look like our neighborhood. We don't want them to stick out. We don't want them to be like, I guess, sore thumbs, right? So what we wanted to do is just take some pictures of homes that are already in the neighborhood, show you what they look like compared to what's there already. One of the concerns was just the homes are very narrow, right? When you build on 20-foot wide lots, your homes are going to be narrow. It's kind of just to fit the housing within the lots. This is kind of what the houses have to look like. But the whole goal, again, replicate the existing neighborhood aesthetic. So again, this is another home that's in the neighborhood, which you can see kind of just the front porch, pretty similar, right? So the whole goal again is to just keep everything to look and feel like the original neighborhood. So this is a location of all the homes and all the lots. So it covers a lot of neighborhoods. I've had a lot of meetings over the last couple weeks with the neighborhood associations, addressing their concerns, making tweaks to the project and where we could to answer those questions and make sure that it was what the people who live in these neighborhoods actually want. The last thing I want to do, and I don't think you guys would let me do this, is build something that no one wants, right? Like if you're going to be in that neighborhood, like I want you to have pride in like what we're building. I think that's like very important to me. And we have other slides, but with the individual homes on them, but you can see just the lots there. So the ones in blue will have 3 homes. The ones in oranges will have 2. So basically this is just following what we've received in terms of feedback from the planning department is to get more dense housing. One of the comments that stuck out to me in the neighborhood associations was that they wanted more rooftops in the city. So this is one way to accomplish that. So St. Joseph, met with them in May 21st. I answered a ton of questions for them here. Majority of their questions came around the high quality the materials. So that's why we put a lot of emphasis on what these homes actually are. The cost of the project, and they had some concerns on the individuals and families that might live in these homes. I would say overall, some people didn't want it, but the majority did want these homes to come into their neighborhood. Prescott, we met with as well. This is the neighborhood that has the 3rd largest amount of homes in them. So this was a great conversation to be had. They did end up providing a letter of support, which I believe they emailed to the commissioners. Greatly appreciate that. We can see that these are lots. Some of the concern here is just some of the narrow lots. The goal is to kind of go back to what was originally platted. But there's some lots that are 32 feet wide, 38 feet wide. So this is kind of where that variation comes into a little bit. Okay, so we were able to get in touch with this neighborhood group. They to be honest, did not care whether or not that we built a home or did not. Yeah, it's just the feedback we received, and so we're reporting that. So the Kensington neighborhood, we've attempted to get in contact with them three individual times, but we have not heard back a response yet at this point. I do continue to follow up with these neighborhood groups to get feedback that's important to me. We can only do as much as we can. So this neighborhood association, we've contacted again 3 times via email with no response. One of the individuals didn't have him coming to the St. Joseph Watchdogs Association meeting. He expressed support. He was the one that actually said that he wants more rooftops in Kansas City. So while we don't have official feedback from this neighborhood group, one individual from that neighborhood did show up and say they supported him. So the Cathedral neighborhood, this would be the second largest batch of lots. So in terms of the neighborhood, we've reached out to them 3 times with no response. We continue to try to get in touch with people. Judd's been doing a great job of kind of helping me navigate and get in front of the right people. And then, so the Riverview, so this is where the largest amount of the homes would go in the Riverview neighborhood. What we found out is the Strawberry Hill Neighborhood Association has actually temporarily taken over that association group. And I'm meeting with that board tomorrow. And so meeting with that board tomorrow night. And then again, I'm meeting with their general association meeting at the end of June as well. So hopefully we receive feedback from them, positive feedback. But these are where the majority of the lots are going to be, is in the Cathedral, Riverview, and Prescott neighborhoods. And so this is just kind of give us an idea of what these homes would be rented for. Again, the whole goal is to get to home ownership. When you're taking federal tax credits, you kind of are forced to get into their compliance program, which is why we'd be renting them for the 15-year period and then selling thereafter. So HUD puts out fair market rents. Basically what they're saying is that this is an affordable rent level for this metro. HUD has come out and said that the affordable rent in Kansas City Metro, so this includes both sides of this state line, $16.45. The whole goal, is obviously to get to rent levels that people can actually attainably have. So the subject property here, the rents would be $15.75. So that's the average rent. There's going to be that range based off of certain income levels. So some of these homes will be rented for close to $1,000. Some will be rented for about $1,600. The average rent will be $15.75 though. And then this portion over here, just kind of talking a little bit about the housing stock and the age of the homes in this area. I definitely don't think old homes are a bad thing. They have a lot of character. They have a lot of history to them. But newer homes have higher quality materials, more energy efficient. So this would be significantly increase the or decrease the age of the housing stock. This is a chart of basically what's within 1 mile of those homes, and almost 50% were built prior to 1950. So, and then one of the, keep mentioning, the federal tax credits, those come with income levels. So over here on the left, what we're seeing is that the residency of these homes will be restricted to households making certain levels of income. Those household incomes are set by HUD, and they dictate what those rent levels will be. What I find helpful is to kind of identify what income or what jobs people might have for these, kind of income levels. So a teacher, a firefighter, a UG staff member, a police officer, a nurse, like these are all the jobs that, would be families or individuals might hold in this household and still be able to live in these homes. So I find it helpful to kind of show that these are individuals that, support our community, and, they also need housing. Like everyone deserves a safe and high quality home. again, just trying to show what rents are in the area. So this project obviously is a number of lots, put the blue dot in the middle of basically where all these homes are going to be. So 1575 is, I know it's kind of hard to see up there, but it's basically lower than everywhere else you can rent a home in. We'll kind of go to the next slide to show you what some of these homes look like. And so this home on the left is a home that we've built. Definitely a different project, but it was built on land bank lots using federal tax credits. It was done in Petersburg, Virginia, though. I want to bring this here home. I want to bring it home and do what we can for our local community. But this is just to give you an idea of what these homes are being rented for and what they look like. Just to kind of give you the visual effect of like, this is what the housing is. And this is, we can beat the price point and the rental rates for all of pretty much the existing homes in the area. So this is probably the most boring slide on this presentation, but basically it's a $41 billion project. $12 million of those, the equity portion will come from those federal tax credit dollars. The other portion of this 41 million will come from lenders who specifically lend into affordable housing developments like this. So they give lower interest rates. It basically allows you to reduce the cost of capital, which allows you to rent for lower and lower rental amounts and hit different price points. And so the development partners, the whole goal, like Judd mentioned, is keep everything local. I know we picked a nonprofit from outside of, KC, but our home builders, they draw, from the Kansas area. Our general contractor will be Timberline Construction. So they are a contractor that specializes in the installation of factory-built homes. You have to be licensed to put these homes in Kansas. So it kind of limits the contractor pool a little bit. So what we're going to bring in is like all the subcontractors will be local. Co-build is somebody that I've been building a relationship with. They specifically work with nonprofit and other developers of affordable housing. They bring in individuals who are from our trade schools here in the city and teach them and train them up alongside of their staff. So I think there's a great alignment there in keeping everything local. And then the property manager will be Conan Esri. They are they're here. Corporate headquarters is here on Shawnee Mission. They manage nationwide. But again, trying to keep everything local as we can, the people who build the homes, the people who maintain the homes, the people who manage the homes, right? The people who are eventually going to sell these homes. The goal is to have everything as local as it could possibly be. The construction timeline, a lot of people ask, like, when could we build these homes? How fast can you do it? Just a little bit of timeline. So we're here, obviously, in the standing commission meeting. If you guys do end up, if the commissioners do end up approving it, we would take this to the full commission meeting, at which point, hopefully, it would receive, approval at that point as well. The tax credit, the 4% LIHTC tax credits, our applications at the end of July. So we will be doing, once we get the option, granted, what that means is we're hiring our surveyors, we're hiring our civil engineers. Like it is a lot to work to get done within 30 to 40 days, but it can be done. And then hopefully the LIHTC gets awarded in October. You got to kind of go through permitting, you go through planning, do a lot of stuff to get to the point where you can actually start turning dirt. The goal is to hopefully do that in the spring of next year. The first home would then come in approximately 2 months later, like we showed in that initial slide. And then it would approximately take 12 to 15 months to deliver all 166 homes. If If you guys don't approve it, then I guess none of this really matters. But if we do get approval, but we're not able to hit the timeline for the LIHTC application, the next available 4% LIHTC application is in February of next year. So what it does is basically just move all those numbers 6 months later. So team experience, I've talked about this this project in Overland Park. I'd love to, anyone that wants to come and see it, I will bring you down there. I'll have you talk to the entire team. We'll go out and see this. But it's 200 homes, 209 homes, traditional subdivision, all factory built housing. It's for rent specifically. You can do this for sale as well. But these are just some photos of what these homes look like and the interiors. So these homes will look almost identical to what we are going to build out here. Obviously with the 20-foot wide lot, the homes will be narrower. But in terms of the porches, the roof pitch, the siding, the windows, all that will be pretty much the same. And then, one of the other projects that I mentioned, I think is almost like eerily identical, is 47 land bank lots using factory built housing. My partners were the ones that developed this out in Petersburg, Virginia. And that was financed through low income housing tax credits as well. So this is being done. It's been done here in the city, factory built housing, and it's, the LIHTC portion is being done in Petersburg, Virginia. And then lastly, just, some of the numbers that we'll see here, 166 new homes, that's 166 chances to drastically change a family's life. That's really what I'm about is, I think everyone deserves a safe and stable home, no matter what income you make. And that's really, why I do this. Some of the other numbers, 452 population increase estimate, and then annual taxes collected about 250,000, and a $41 million project going into into the city. And then we'll open the floor for questions. That's my phone number. That's literally my cell phone. So like, pick up the phone, call me, I will answer. I know I probably shouldn't do that, but like I just have a real passion for what we're doing, and I believe in what we're doing. If it's a 913 or 816 number, I'll pick it up. If it's another one, just leave a voicemail.
Thank you so much. And can you give your name one more time?
So Eric Domino.
Miss Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate your extensive, but actually also pretty succinct presentation. This is really, really exciting to me. I cannot overestimate just how exciting it is to have this conversation. We've had a lot of applications come in to build various types of housing in Wyandotte County. Just earlier, Mr. Hannon mentioned different types of typologies of housing in Wyandotte County. And so this is an option, right? It's an option among many that we are very fortunate to consider. So thank you for your interest in our community. I hope regardless of what happens here, that you would consider other places in Wyandotte County, because we have more than enough parcels available for all types of housing to be built, as long as it is of quality and meets the different levels of need in our community. So with that, committee questions, I know this is pretty extensive presentation, and of course, we'll go to public comment. Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. It is really exciting. I do have a number of questions. First of all, Kensington neighborhood, West Height neighborhood, and Cathedral. I don't know if our contact list that we provided you to meet with those presidents is current, but I can put you in touch with every single one of those presidents. I promise you, every one of those neighborhoods wants to talk to you.
Perfect.
Especially Kensington and Cathedral.
Okay.
West Height, with kind of 4 or 6 of them way up in the north corner, they probably still want to talk to you, but Kensington and Cathedral being so impacted by what you're proposing, they are not going to ignore an email from you requesting to come present your project, which just makes me wonder if you have the wrong contact, and we can fix that. So talk with me about, some of this is getting a little bit ahead of land bank stuff, so forgive me for that, but let's say that you build 166 homes and they are rental. And they are complying with the income guidelines set by LIHTC. Who's managing that? Who's the managing operator of all that?
So ultimately, the ownership, right, is responsible for making sure the compliance is in place. Conan Esri, like I said, they will manage these homes. They will manage the compliance. They have extensive experience doing this. They outsource the compliance. It goes to a company called RealPage. That compliance is then done by that third party, checked off by Conan Esri, and then ultimately sent to ownership to make sure that that is all correct. So there is multiple different layers to make sure that these homes are rented and offered to the individuals that are allowed to live in here based off of the tax credits.
Okay. I may have missed it. Are they built on slab? What's the plan for like a safe room?
So the safe room, we're currently working with the manufacturer. Ideally, we have it inside of the home, right? Reinforce one of the, probably one of the bathrooms. If that's not an option, we're still working through that and what that would work like with the home manufacturer. It's not something that they've typically done. It would be an exterior storm shelter. You've seen some of those on some of the new builds here in the city. So if ideally first inside the home, if not, it would be an exterior structure. It would be, kind of incorporated within the home, within the landscaping to, not look, honestly, just not look bad, to make it look good and not bad.
So for all of the parcels that are in front of us tonight, is every single one of those parcels, you've made the application and they've gone through our process and we're here tonight? Is that right, Judd?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay, so every single parcel that you're wanting to receive already zoned properly?
Correct. Yeah. So those parcels were specifically looked at because it meets all of the zoning. These parcels were also, they've been pre-measured by my team. My construction manager has gone out and looked at the topography. I'm sure as many of you know, there's a lot of hills in the city. So looking for the flattest lots that are, honestly just the easiest to develop and then kind of build out from there. So that was why those lots were selected. Additionally, the overarching theme of these lots is that they're highly scored through the LIHTC program. So the Kansas, Housing Authority that allocates these tax credits sends out a QAP, so a grading scale, and all of these lots, based on what they're saying, they want homes on these lots. So it's an application that would score extremely high.
So your company has built houses of this size, but not in Wyandotte County. Did I understand that right?
That's correct. So where we've done a lot of work, Johnson County, we've done that project out in Petersburg, Virginia, and we're doing some development down in Texas.
Okay. So you're familiar with what you're building.
Absolutely. It's
Just
the
haven't
only,
built it here.
correct. It is the only thing we build.
I have a question for staff. It has nothing to do with you. Don't take any offense. I like your project a lot. It's very exciting to envision that this number of homes of this style and quality could be built in these areas. The question I have is, have you had any land bank lots ever from Wyandotte County?
No.
Okay, because we've told other people they can have 5 max at one time. And we're looking at handing you 166 of them. And I'm wondering where the equity in that situation is.
I can answer that question. I get these requests often that I want all of your land bank lots, and they don't put in the work. When I received the application, I could tell that he put in the work and it was a real application. So that's why I pushed it forward.
Okay. And I can understand that. You know, when I first was reading about it, part of me was like, well, let's try 10. And I can understand the need to scale up. So, you know, I am torn on that issue because we have not, and maybe we've never seen a developer this ready to do this number. I don't know. You can probably speak to that better than me, but I'm just struggling a little bit with that fairness issue. And I do want you to build your houses. I truly do. So if you could just.
Commissioner, if
maybe-
I may,
Yeah.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. So I know that often when applicants come in and speak to Judd, we do notify them that that has been one of the typical comments of the Standing Committee and the Wyandotte County Land Bank Commission. We also make note that that is not technically the policy. And your own policy allows you to not follow that policy. I would also just note that there's, at least in the terms of fairness and how you dole out large numbers of land bank parcels, the commission also held a super block of hundreds of land bank properties that we don't know anything about that development. So
That's a good point. And the other thing I was thinking of was, since they're options, you know, it's not like we're deeding 166 parcels to someone unknown and untenured in our community. We're not. You produce 10, we deed you 10 parcels. So that's kind of how the options work. So I feel like that's a little bit of a safeguard, because I think the concept, you know, that we want to avoid is, here's 175 parcels. And then something happens in your world and you've done one, but you own all this property now that isn't going to see any action. And I think the option program does sort of protect us in that way. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do want to ask one clarifying question. I know Commissioner Hill and probably Commissioner Ramirez has some questions. Mr. Knapp, so can you just provide a little bit more clarity, because we are receiving some concerns regarding why, you know, this particular applicant and I want it more, what have you. So when you say they've put in the work, what do you mean by that? Because here's the other thing, and I'm not speaking to the individuals that have said that to us, but I've also heard some folks, and I'm not the land bank manager, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to give you 3 blocks worth of land bank parcels, and I've not even seen your application, just from what I'm hearing. And so there is a level of discretion of staff of whether or not it is appropriate. But if you can just bring us into your world of how you're making those decisions, that would be helpful.
Like I said, I get these people want to build on all of our land bank lots. I don't know how many times people have asked me for all of our land bank lots to build on, but then they don't provide any proof that they've actually done anything. Before Eric came to me, he went to planning and got the narrow lot design guidelines and had the designs for his houses before he even came and talked to me. He sent his people out to measure the lots and identify which lots he wanted. He just didn't pick every lot in the Prescott neighborhood group. He only picked the ones that fit his needs. So that proved to me that he's actually went out and did work, put in the time. I mean, to drive by 138 lots and measure them and look at them is quite time. And then his presentation that he gave me really wasn't changed very much from like what we've seen tonight. So it was very well put together, very well polished. He's built these projects in the past. So I really believed that he could complete this project.
Gotcha. So there's kind of a substantial bar of, if asked why, there's quite a bit of work and there's quite a bit of effort that was put in even prior to getting to you that made you feel comfortable to say, yes, I can publicly say, I can stand by saying, yeah, let's go ahead and put that forward for a land bank application. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly what you're hearing, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Yes, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one being, you mentioned mobile homes, Mr. Eric, and you said we haven't had mobile homes since the 70s. So this is definitely a whole different project. So my question now, that was a comment, but here's my question for our staff. What's the difference between this project, Mr. Hand, versus the Eden Village project? Just in layman's terms, real quick. When I say project, I mean just the homes, the way they're built. Is there, well, this is like prefab, I understand that, and the other ones are not. Is this a dumb question? I'm just trying, I know they're both smaller homes. One is prefab.
So, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, I think they're the same. Yeah,
The size
number of
differs.
projects, the Eden Village are smaller.
Okay,
But they're both, again, a mobile home is not a, I don't think they're technically factory built homes in Eden Village, but they're pre-built and brought to. The difference in the type of construction is the advance in the technology to make it more of a.
okay, okay, thank you for that.
It's not a kind of one-off project like Eden Village was. Pulled some off of, basically a pre-designed list. Applicant here has worked ahead of that to address our narrow lot design guidelines, which are the intent of which is to produce a higher quality product.
Okay, okay,
Again, he has to go through all the entitlements. He pulls a building permit for each one. Each one will get a narrow lot design line review. If it needs a variance, it needs a variance.
okay. And so the statute or the policy needs to be changed when it comes to building the Eden Village homes, right? And will there need to be a new statute or policy to build these, or is that already done?
Now, the Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, the Eden Village project is a little different. They tried to put multiple houses on a single parcel. Their site design required all kinds of variances. They combined several lots to get a larger lot. They had a communal room, a communal office to provide those services, sort of have the ability to provide services on site. It was just a different animal. It was a tiny home village.
Okay,
These are single family homes.
okay,
Individual parcels.
okay, thank you. All right, we got that part cleared up. Okay, Mr. Eric, I noticed in what you showed us in Overland Park that they had garages, but I didn't see any garages for the Wyandotte County homes.
That's correct. So based off the zoning R1B that was enacted, so you don't have to put a garage based off the zoning. A major concern of the associations was parking. So these homes will have a parking, they'll have a driveway. They can fit up to 2 cars tandem. So that is how we're addressing, the parking issue. They will not have garages. You can build a garage for $30,000, which means you need to rent it for maybe an extra 200. So everything, they've talked about, some of the fairness. I've spent almost 12 months before I even talked to Judd about, how could you actually make this work? Talk to the manufacturers, got the design guidelines, talk to them to get, specific floor plans, specific everything to make it so that it fits exactly what, Wyandotte County is looking for. It's been designed in a way so that it can be done and actually feasible, which is why the garages were not put in the project.
Okay. And another thing, just 2 more quick questions. Number 1, I really appreciated Commissioner Bynum's question about the property manager, because what we've seen here in Wyandotte County is many times it starts out beautiful and then the builder or the property managers or something exchange or switch or something, and then somebody else is taking care of the property, or is property managers that don't care, they don't keep up the property anymore. So what assurance can you give us on this property manager being involved for a while? Or is this another one where it turns over after so many years?
So two keys. One, it's a 15-year hold period. So I live in this city. I just gave you my email, my personal phone number. Like, I encourage people to call me. I take a lot of pride in what these homes look like, and the quality of life that, you know, the individuals living here do. So I think that starts from me. Conan Esri specifically, they've been in business for 30+ years. They're here in the city as well. They care about their reputation. I've looked at other property managers, specifically vetted, I would say probably 5+ property managers, and picked Conan Esri because of their exceptional service and how long they've been in business. So in terms of insurances, they're professionals, and I live here. I don't want to get calls from people that don't like the quality of these homes and what they, the upkeep of them. So I think those are kind of the two distinctions there.
So would the property manager have an office in Wyandotte County, or would it just remain out in Shawnee Mission?
So it would be in Wyandotte County. Ideally, what we'd have one of the homes be an office. If that's, we'd still need to work with planning because it would be technically a different type of zoning. If that's not the case, I've already built in a budget to rent office space like in Wyandotte County. To make a scattered site project like this work, you need to have really, really strong like maintenance and leasing staff very close to these homes. It's a difficult project to manage because not all of the homes are right next to each other. Another reason why these lots were selected in such tight bunching was to make the management easier. So if we can't get a variance from the zoning department to allow one of these homes to be a leasing office, we'll go ahead and just rent office space, as close as we possibly can to these homes.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question just has to do with the ability to withhold storms. And so we've seen such devastation all over our country. And so I'm just wanting to hear a little bit more on how much you all do to help protect that homeowner in that house. And of course, you have, I heard a song called "Your Arms Are Too Short to Fight with God" or something like that. But anyway, but to the best of your ability, I would like to know kind of what are you doing to ensure that these are very well built and that they can withstand the storms.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think first of all, the planning department ensures that everything is built to high quality. The federal tax credit dollars also ensure those standards actually go above and beyond what Wyandotte County requires. If you're going to get those tax credits, they need to meet those requirements. The homes, that's kind of why I touched on the quality of the manufacturer. There's hundreds of home manufacturers out there. This specific manufacturer was selected because of the quality of those homes. Another point that I mentioned was the permanent foundation. So being on a permanent foundation is very key, not only for the future owner of these homes, but for the safety of them as well. These are permanently fixed to the ground, like they're not going anywhere. The siding's 50-year, lifelong or 50-year lifespan. So high quality siding. The roof's 25-year plus. So I think that we've taken into insurance that we want these homes to be high quality, and I think you can rest easy at night that no one the planning department's got your back. They're not going to let us put bad homes in the neighborhoods. And then again, since we're taking federal dollars, there's a lot of kind of like red tape and things that you have to do to make sure that these structures fit what they're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Ramirez, did you have anything to add or ask before we get to public comment? Take that as not. Commissioner Bynum, you have some more
Thank
questions?
you. Moving sort of beyond the land bank piece of this, and some of this might be for staff, but you're going to submit a LIHTC application to the state. in July. Is that right? You don't need local permission to do that, do you?
Well, I need control of the land. So that's why we're
But
here.
you don't need to bring your LIHTC application to our governing body for approval to submit to Topeka. Is that correct?
That is correct. As long as you guys option the land, you cannot make an application if you don't control land. But yes, that is correct.
So the option is enough
Correct.
to submit.
Well, I'll have to spend a couple $100,000 to get surveys, GCs to, kind of design the project. Most of it's already been designed. But yeah, that's pretty much, you need control of land, you need a market study, and you need plans. You need to show that you've actually bid out this project.
Okay. How is it that you decided 166 is the number? Because I'm kind of interested in saying, let's start with Riverview and do 51. But I think you haven't said it out loud, but you've got a LIHTC application pending. So what does my suggestion do to your LIHTC application and your financing and your building plans? And
So the reason we selected 166 homes is it's very, very hard that I think some of these other builders in the room could tell you, it's very hard to do lot by lot. You get significant cost reductions, economies of scale. So to go bigger, it brings the cost down. It allows us to have a larger impact, and it allows us to rent and sell homes for a lower dollar amount.
if you don't get LIHTC, are you doing this project?
So that's a great question. If we don't get LIHTC, what I'd probably end up doing is trying to do one, go to you all and ask, what do you want to get built? We would look at doing a for sale model, that takes a different set of investors. It's significantly harder to raise capital around that. LIHTC is there. It is given to the states from the federal government. So it's, I don't want to say it's the easy route, but it's an established path that's been there before.
Sure, and I appreciate it because it helps us put people in housing. And we desperately need to be able to do that in this community. I'm all for building more housing. I'm trying to play out and frankly convince myself that it is a good move on the part of this committee to hand over 166 parcels with one vote. We've never done that before that I know of. And I want to do it. But I feel like we've got to cover as many possible bases as we can, do our homework, do our due diligence. This is not something to take lightly from this chair. That's a lot of parcels. And do you hope to utilize our NRA program through the additional tax incentive that's available?
That's correct. So we do hope to use that. It's honestly a great program. It's what makes projects like this feasible. We're still looking through whether or not this project would be accepted. It was designed for owner occupied homes. Ultimately these homes will become owner occupied in 15 years. There's also some ways that you can become a quote unquote special project within that, act. Honestly, it's needed to make this project feasible. So we will be pursuing that.
So let's say we vote in favor of this tonight and you're successful with your LIHTC application, I know you had the little timeline, but it's about 2.5 months to build.
Correct.
And then assuming your LIHTC was approved on round one, you're looking at, I forget already, almost 2 years or less than 2 years to be built out.
So less than 2 years. So I guess if a little, we'll call it, if we get the approval from the commissioners today and go to the commission, the full commission, and then get the next level of approval, take about approximately 2 years from there. Because it's a large project, it takes a lot of time. But once most of the kind of the legwork, I've been doing for 12 months. A lot of the next step, once you receive those, is now you really start spending like serious cash. Like we're talking, it's going to take probably $1 to $2 million to get all the construction docs together, to go through planning. Once that's all set, I mean, the construction's like relatively like that's, I don't want to say it's easy, but like that's like the part that moves quickly. It's all of the planning up to then, which is why I've been spending the last year working through all those problems, like knowing that probably going to ask about this, or Judd's going to tell me that people want this, and so that's kind of where a lot of the, I guess, the work has been up front, if that makes sense.
Okay, Chair, I think I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll do Commissioner Hill, and then y'all, we do have to get some public comment. So this will be the last one, and then we'll do public comment.
One more question. Will you do your project in phases? Like, for instance, will you do Cathedral first, or you do after 30 days or 90 days, you go to another neighborhood? Are you building in phases? Are you putting one or two up and all of them at the same time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We will be kind of focusing on specific sections of the lots, like to begin with. We don't necessarily want to have our crews run around the city everywhere. Like we want to, make an impact here, and then they move to the next block. The general contractor and, myself will kind of, we'll work with the city to figure out what the best kind of like timeline and what location makes the most sense. But, from a pure construction standpoint, it makes most sense to just do as many as you can in one, call it neighborhood, and then kind of move on to the next.
Awesome. Thank you. You just save your breath. If you need one of these waters, just grab one, because we're making you work tonight. I'm going to go ahead and open public comment right now. I'll ask the clerk, were there any comments received from the public?
No comments were received.
Are there any hands raised online?
No hands are raised online.
Okay. For the folks that are here, would anybody like to speak on this item? Yes. All right. Comments should be limited to the item in hand, and per the commission rules of procedure, should not include any rude or derogatory remarks, reflections as to integrity, abusive comments, and statements as to motives and personalities. You'll be given 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and residency, and then make sure that green light is on. That way we can hear you loud and clear.
My name is Fran Sutton. I'm a Kansas City, Kansas resident. I have several thoughts, and I was just scribbling notes as we went, so follow if you can. My concern would be that we would be holding up 160 lots, and of these 160 lots, of all of our land bank lots, they were specifically selected as the cream of the crop, which makes remaining lots perhaps not as buildable or not as desirable. I have not seen data suggesting that this developer is actually familiar, based on his presentation with our city, with KCK, and with the 2022 Shaw report that indicates that we do have 2,500 approximately short. We are 2,500 housing units short in our city, and that we do have over 23,000 families that cannot afford more than $500 per month in rent or housing expenses. And while I appreciate that we hear the words affordable and attainable, I use those words as well. $1,500 a month for a trailer may not be desirable, perhaps, or affordable in our community. The conversations I was hearing surrounding where certain folks have received limited numbers of land bank lots at their disposal versus 160 requested here, it is a It certainly lends to the idea that at times in KCK, it would feel like we roll out the red carpet or we roll out the red tape, depending on how much money is being brought to the table. My biggest concern is that Wyandotte County is a collaboration of many communities with various socioeconomical and cultural backgrounds. A trailer park is not going to fit in Cathedral. It's not going to fit in West Height. If these neighborhood groups have not returned calls, it is possible that we don't have the right contact information, but it's also quite possible that they are quietly acknowledging that a trailer won't sit right next to a brick Cape Cod. The project shows a lack of knowledge of the complexity of the character of each of the neighborhoods represented on that sheet for 160 lots, and that perhaps trailers do not fit the character of the neighborhoods that are requested. We are known for our diversity. And while that development may be great in Johnson County, Greenfield, it may not be great in portions of our city.
Your time has expired.
That's all good.
Other comments from the gallery? All right, just need your name and residence.
Thank you. Elnora Jefferson, Kansas City, Kansas. I want to say I enjoyed the presentation as well. And I had a list of questions, but the commissioners went on and asked the questions that I had. I do have one, however, and that is on assessments, soil lead. Are you going to be doing that phase one assessment, or how are you addressing that?
Yep, so phase ones, sorry.
You won't necessarily have to answer. Ms. Eleanor, your 3 minutes is still going, so I would say go ahead and answer or ask all of your questions and everything, and then we'll go ahead and
Okay,
answer.
okay, great, thank you. And the other thing is, this is kind of goes before the equitable development scorecard. I appreciate the fact that you're going to team with some of the colleges on trades and people who are into that. Have you thought about the USD 500, the actual school system? We have a Diploma Plus project there to start to build the capacity locally and with our youth to be able to do the things that you're doing and that the people that are working for you were doing. So I think those are the two questions that I have that weren't answered elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson. Other comments from the gallery? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Sir, if you would like to give your responses, or quite of a variety of questions that were asked, so we'd love to hear your responses, and committee will follow up with other comments and questions as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first kind of comment was 166 lots, 138 lots, selected as the cream of the crop. I think what we've looked to do is, yes, we've looking for, lots that are easier to develop, but we've also tried to find lots that are close together. So we are taking on challenging lots as well. There's 4,000 plus lots. I think there's we need a lot of builders to build homes. I mean, I think if you look at the number of lots that we're looking at, it's maybe 2% of the entire stock in the land bank. I think also these lots were selected because of the LIHTC grading system. And then I guess one of the other comments that I heard was what I'll paraphrase, the rents not being low enough. Yes, I wish I could build homes and rent them for $500. It's just not feasible unless you're getting heavy subsidies, which then means, maybe you're only building one or two. To have an impact on the community in a positive way, I think you need to have rents that are, feasible for the project, but of different scales. So that's why we're looking at $1,000 to up to $1,600. So, I think the rents come down to feasibility. To be honest, I think maybe there's a reason that there's 4,500 lots, kind of in this area right now. And then I guess the next comment was, a trailer or a trailer park. I'm used to people saying that, honestly. We heard it in Overland Park all day, every day. These are not trailers, you know. I think the home design, the width of the lots require homes to be more narrow than they are long. If you want to fill in these narrow lots, these are what the homes look like. I think if you call the homes that we're building trailers, you're kind of also calling the neighbors' homes. They look the same, right? So that would be kind of my response to that question. I understand the fairness question. What we're trying to do here, I'm not asking for special treatment. What I'm looking to move through the process based off of what, the commissioners have put together, what the elected officials have put together, kind of what the citizens have elected you all to do. And I'm working through that framework. So I think that, I'm not asking for anything special really. And then in terms of the character, I think, the planning department has done a great job of doing the narrow lot guidelines. These homes would fit in those guidelines. You're not going to just slap up something that doesn't look like, what the other homes look like. I think there's a lot of guardrails that you all have set up, specifically the planning department, they will be there and they will make sure that these homes are built to the standards and the aesthetic that, the city's looking for. In terms of the phase one, every single lot will be tested. Every single lot will get a phase two if it's an indication of something. I can almost guarantee you, if there was a home on there before, there's probably lead in the land. So we've already built in the remediation costs to that into that budget. The environmental concerns are there. There's challenges to building these lots, the topography, the bedrock. It's a hard area to build in. And so we've, properly vetted out all those things. And, the phase one and the phase twos are just, not only required by myself, but by our lenders, by the federal government. And, anything that's found will be remediated. And then in terms of the trades and looking to the schools, that's why we are looking to try to bring in, co-build or another similar GC who has, what I would consider better access than maybe I would to some of the trade schools to bring those people in.
Thank you. Committee, other questions, comments? Yeah, Commissioner Hill.
Do you mind if I just ask this question of legal? Is there a way that we can protect ourselves? That if this developer cannot deliver what they say they're going to deliver, when they say they're going to deliver it, say some catastrophic something happened economically, and maybe all they got to do is 50 to 75 homes, but all the other land is tied up in their name. Is there an instrument or some way that we could protect ourselves, that if they're unable to complete that project or those parcels, can we release that land quickly in the event another developer wants to come through? I don't know what I'm asking. I'm just trying to figure out a way we can protect ourselves.
Sure. This is Wendy Green with the legal department. I would say the option agreement actually already does that. It's only for a year. So if they couldn't get everything lined up to have the property deeded over to them, and our option agreement says that that property, it doesn't get deeded over to them until they have the building permits in place and the financing in hand. And they only have a year to do that unless they come and ask for extensions. So if at that point, Judd doesn't see that they've got all their ducks in a row and they haven't already got started with the timeline that he set up, he's going to know before that year's up if they're going to be able to do it. So I think the option agreement already gives us that protection.
And I don't want to jump too much into the land bank policy discussion, but one of the additions that is being made and proposed before this committee for the land bank policy update is an annual review that the land bank manager gives to the neighborhood and community development standing committee on options. That way, it's not a surprise. I don't have to wonder what X developer is doing. Every Community and Neighborhood Development Standing Committee here on out, right, pending, that policy is adopted, will get that review every year. So there will not be a gap or a lapse of, oh, we didn't know, or, oh, we awarded you that option in 21 and it's 2025. Every year we will know what is going on, just for accountability, for our sake, to constituents, but also for the developer's sake. And so, yeah, that's a really, really good question. Commissioner Hill, there's no dumb question. You're doing a phenomenal job in asking really good questions. So please don't to sell yourself short there. I do want to ask a question on ownership. So we had talked about the $250,000, right, estimate of the impact of that. Obviously, it may not be that if you're taking advantage of incentives, which that's the whole point of putting incentives there. Who will own these homes as they are rented?
So basically I would, and the investors. So these tax credits become sold. So they're sold to basically banks, right? Because they need to lend in in the communities that they, have branches. So these tax credits are basically sold to banks for about 80 cents on the dollar. So these banks will essentially become the owners of the homes. There's kind of complex like organization charts, but that's pretty much how it works, is they will own the majority of the interest in the homes.
Thank you. And I want to make a comment about kind of the affordable housing piece. So somebody that I consider myself an advocate for affordable housing. Very soon here, I plan on introducing an affordable housing trust fund, which is including the community benefits agreement or ordinance that was passed last year. I think we have to be very mindful of where our community is and then where we want our community to be, right? We've had a lot of amazing nonprofit folks offer affordable housing at that very, very low level, whether it's Eden Village or Village Initiative and the work that they're doing, or others, which is great. We've also had straight up market rate projects. Look out west, look at the 4th and Minnesota project, which I'm excited about, and I hope other folks are. Look at what's happening with the yards too, right? And then we have something like this, right? We have a project that is in the middle, where no, it's not at that 500 level, but it's also not at that market rate level either, right? It's kind of in the middle, maybe for that family with 2 working folks, or somebody that, has a job and maybe a kid or 2, and they're saying, hey, we're gonna rent for a while with the hopes of owning a home. I say all that to say we need a variety of housing options in Wyandotte County. We don't need all market rate. We don't need all light tech. We don't need all rental. We don't need all homeowner occupied. It has to be diversified with 4,500 parcels. And this is after we have awarded Mount Carmel kind of a blank slate of a timeline of how much they own. And I hear a lot of people in the Northeast complaining about what is under their hold right now to build. And I voted for that. My whole point is that I think we have to be realistic. I think we also have to think about the message that we are sending to developers and folks that are wanting to take a risk in our community. I want us to move the needle. I believe there's more than enough for 166 to be awarded. And I also think there's more than enough for 6 or 10 that were awarded to small developers. We can do it all because we have 4,500 parcels, and many of them are buildable. And so I would hope that we would not have this conversation with a scarcity mindset. We can do it all. We have enough to make it happen. And we can better our process so that small scale developers also have a shot and do not feel short-sighted in the process, while also welcoming developers, because we need you here to develop. And I hope this is one of many projects you do in Wyandotte County. Mr. Hand, you look like you're about to say something.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. I just wanted to add that similar to add on to what you just said, Commissioner, through the land bank policy update, during the Plan KCK comprehensive plan update, and even in the last couple of years of our DOT talks, we have consistently heard from our public that they want us to find a way to mobilize our land bank parcels and move them faster. This could be a great test subject.
And it's not to say that all of the land bank parcels would be reserved for large developers, because in the policy, that is not it at all. It is actually far more permissive than it has been before. And we're also getting pushback to say, why should that be a garden? Why should that be a yard extension? That could be a single family home. And so at some point we have to decide. And I think the answer is all of it. The answer is the yard extension, it's the garden, it's the pocket park that Turtle Hill's doing, and it's this project, and it's the small developer. I don't think we have to choose and pit community interests against one another. I'll get off my soapbox. Anyone else have any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate all that you've said. And yes, Commissioner Hill, you are doing a fabulous job, and those are great questions. So keep asking them. One more time, I know you've got a product that gets manufactured and brought here. Is there an opportunity? I'm sure you need other things. Are you committed to doing things like buy local, whatever other materials? Do you try to do that locally?
Yeah, that's correct. So the goal is to do everything we possibly can to keep it local. I'm local. I live here. I care about my community, right? I want my neighbors, I want the neighbor who has the foundation company to work on this project. I want the individual who's starting up the lawn care product or service in the neighborhood to mow all these lots. I mean, 166 lots is, or 138 lots is a lot of mowing to do, right? That's, that's someone's business right there. The whole goal is to keep it local, which is why I'm trying to connect with general contractors who have the avenues to access, the trade schools and the relationships that are already there.
For what it's worth, after the meeting, or I can email you, I have the 3 contacts for the 3 neighborhood groups, and you can see if they match up with who you've been trying to connect with. I think it would be really good for you to continue to talk to all of those neighborhoods. Sometimes I think we have to take all the very best information we have and still go out on faith. And that's what I'm going to do right now with a motion to approve these land bank lots.
Davis, second. Okay. Any other comments? Is Commissioner Ramirez is good? I'm texting him, so I'm assuming everything is good there. Okay, because good grief, that'd be scary. All right, cool. So there was a motion to approve in a second. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, and we will see you later on this month.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, committee. We are still making our way through. I think this puts us at the land bank transfers, Mr. Knapp. Is that accurate?
You've already voted on the.
We did. We went on the transfers. Okay, just wanted to make sure we got all of that. So
We need a separate vote on the property transfers, please.
we do need a
Yes,
separate vote on.
we need a separate vote. It's a separate item.
Okay, awesome. I will go ahead and is there a motion on the land bank transfer?
Bynum, I move the property transfer of 529 Garnett Avenue. It's the only one I see.
Second.
All right, there is a motion made by Commissioner Bynum and a second by Commissioner Hill. Clerk, can we get the roll?
Roll call. Hill. Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Okay, we are making our way through. This is a very, very busy, productive a night for our committee, which is really exciting. So our last item is the land bank policy update. We are back here again, which is awesome, This one is for action. And so committee, regardless of what happens tonight, I'll keep putting it on the agenda for action just because that's where we are at right now and want to leave that at you all's discretion. But Mr. Knapp, I believe you have kind of a brief presentation to help us get caught up to speed.
So this is just a recap of how we got here to making this an action item on our policy. Start out with, we have 4,600 land bank lots. There's a map, and the engagement that we've done, we had 5 meetings, actually 6. We talked to 318 people during that time. We asked questions like, what should the purpose of the land bank be? What does success look like? And put all that information together, and the land bank really wasn't doing a terrible job. So I was very proud of that. Our April 1st standing committee recap, we talked about options. The only change that we have in options, there's very small ones, like the agreement start date is at when full commission votes on to approve these items. That's when the start date of their option agreement starts. They have 45 days after that to sign. If they don't sign by that, their agreement gets canceled. And the extensions was land bank manager can extend it once. And then if they need more time, more than 2 years to do this, they got to come back here in front of the commissioners to get their extension. The land bank advisory board change, we added an additional member from the MBR that has the most land bank parcels. Currently, that'd be Groundworks. It would be a neighborhood association president that would be voted on by the livable neighborhoods or selected by livable neighborhoods. Gardens was the next one. I heard that we have yes to gardens. Yard extensions and victory gardens or personal gardens were the same thing. So personal gardens kind of went away. They're just yard extensions. There was a talk about when do we transfer gardens once they're approved. This is more for like urban farms and community gardens that aren't right next to your house. They'll transfer once they're approved, but we will have deed restrictions in there so we can get the property back if they have code violation items like that. For the urban farms, we will require an option agreement if buildings are going to be built. So it'll be run just like our option program, that they'll have to go get a building permit, provide proof of funds. Yard extensions was a yes, that we should start doing those again. We did add that they must be combined with their existing property and can include additional non-developable parcels. Like if there's parcels that are unbuildable behind them, we could get those. Final policy discussions on like ones that are kind of out there are holds, land bank staffing, land bank annual updates, and any others. That sums up my presentation.
Awesome, thank you. The conversation regarding the holds, if I recall, was just whether or not we would allow them. Do I recall that? Okay. I don't know if we have a slide on that. I don't want to necessarily make you go and find that, but committee, just to kind of bring everyone up to speed. In the current policy update proposal right now, and staff, do correct me if I'm not recalling this, in the current policy proposal, holds are not allowed. And the reason why is because we have options. So with a hold, we're basically saying you get that land bank application for almost an indefinite period of time until the elected officials say, hey, what have you done with those applications? For the option policy, it's to say, no matter who you are, small developer, large developer, no matter how much money you have, no matter whatever, if you have not completed your land bank application by that set amount of time, you have kind of one shot with the land bank manager to make your case, and he has the discretion of up to 1 year to give you extra time. And then if after that time you have not succeeded, you have to come back before this body and make a case as to why you get access to that land bank application. I'm in favor of what we have in the current policy. I don't think holds are just helpful for Wyandotte County. I just don't. That's kind of my thought. Committee questions regarding, let's just start with the holds conversation. We will get to public comment, but I just want to. Okay. Actually, can we put that slideshow back up there? Sorry. The other one is the land bank staffing. So this was something that I put within the policy. So I'll say it because, yeah, I'll just say it. We need a lot more staff at the unified government in general. I think there is tremendous amount of potential, particularly everybody has potential. All of your departments have potential, but I think there's a particular amount of potential in the land bank division of economic development to speed up and expedite and scale these efforts. Jed needs help. Just Tiffany, y'all need help. Y'all need help. And having more people on staff, having more people do this work. I've spoken with the county administrator about this as well. It's just necessary. And so within the proposed policy, there is a recommended, because again, it's a recommendation of a ratio of for every 1,000 parcels, there's a staff member. So we have currently 4,600 parcels. That means ideally we would get at somewhere between, I guess you can have a half staff member, but ideally we would have about 4 to 5 staff members, right? And that's to help with this process. That can be marketing the land bank parcels and the opportunities kind of nationwide, internationally. It can be helping small scale developers and walking them through that process. It can also be assisting folks that have already been awarded that may have questions, because I'm sure for the land bank of folks at the UG, they get a lot of questions and they spend a lot of time doing a lot of things. The last part, number 3, is I've already mentioned it, the annual update. So we award these options every month, which is great. I don't know about y'all, sometimes I get asked questions and I'm like, I don't even remember when their options started and when it ends or whatever. Having this annual update will just be helpful to not just us, but again, we have to think future forward so that the community knows, so that everybody knows the status of those options, what's going on, and just adds more transparency and accountability to the process. I kind of just went through all of that verbally because I've looked at this policy God knows how many times. Any questions, committee, on that before we get to public comment? Okay. Clerk, I will turn to public comment. Have we received any comments from the public?
There are no comments received.
Okay, any hands raised online?
We do have a hand raised online for CHWC Enterprises.
Okay, awesome. Before you speak here, let me go ahead and get my spiel. Give your name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. This is Megan Painter. I'm the Director of Neighborhood Development at CHWC, and I live right next to Waterway Park at 1327 Barnett. The only thing that I really would like to mention about the holds is I've been working very closely with broader neighborhood group at Douglas Sumner especially, and there are land bank lots right next to Sumner Academy. And Sumner Academy is scrunched already and they need to expand. And so whenever it comes to the hold, I think that we really need to be very strategic, especially whenever it comes to land next to our larger institutions. And then also, you know, we're talking about putting together broader strategies for entire neighborhoods, and we'll be working to do some phase development, I think, in Sumner here pretty quickly, Douglas Sumner. But there are options to do bigger things if we can package land. And so I just want the value of packaging land in order to do these larger catalytic projects to be something that is valued in this new policy. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments online?
No other hands are raised.
Awesome. I'll turn to the gallery folks that are here. Anybody like to make a statement? Awesome. Just need your name and city of residence.
It's Elnora Jefferson, Kansas City, Kansas. I'm speaking against the holds. What I'm wanting to be noted is that in the holds, there's no provision for the entity for whom the land is held to maintain the land. So the grass cutting, the snow removal and so forth falls still to the city. If I understand, one of the reasons for the options agreement and to analyze the value of using the option agreement was to offset the operating expenses that the UG was having to do that maintenance. So that's what I have to say on that, on the holds. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion. Committee, I do have some thoughts regarding public comment, but committee, any questions or comments?
I just have one question on the policy, page 8 of section 4. And then 4.2 says policies governing the acquisition of property. Now, maybe I'm misunderstanding. In number C, improved properties that are the subject of an existing order for demolition of the improvements and or to meet the criteria for demolition of improvements to determine if the property can be put into rehab program described in section 9. But when I go to section 9, that says garden program.
Typo.
Legal, as a typo. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
so it's a typo.
So I'm just trying to figure out where does it
Section 7 under the rehab program.
7. Thank you.
No
I was
problem.
just wondering where the other part was. Okay. And right now, the demolition opportunities are what?
Where are we on that program?
Sure. So the reason this was put in is because when we first started looking more closely at the demolition program, when a property would come up for demolition, that's all they would do. They would just determine, is it uninhabitable? Do we need to demo it? And then it would just go on the list and it would get demolished. Now it's looked at in more of a eye of, can it be saved? Because we have the ability to do that. So when a property comes up in front of not just the land bank, but in front of a team of staff that makes it part of the NRC, they look at it as, is it tax delinquent? And if it's tax delinquent, then we can put it in a tax sale and get it into the land bank. And then once it's in the land bank, then it can go into the rehab program, where Judd can offer it to the qualified rehabbers, one of which might want to go ahead and give it a try to rehab it. And then if it can't be rehabbed, then we can go ahead and put it into the demolition program. But if it can be rehabbed, that's a more efficient use of resources than just automatically going ahead and demolishing it. So that's what that section is geared toward.
Okay, thank you. And in the event it's held up in probate court, so this ugly piece of property, which are spread out throughout our community, nothing's happening. What can we do? What can we do here to get something happening?
You can still, well, if it's a tax delinquent property, you could still put it into a tax sale, even if it's in probate court, because the law says that whoever has been put in charge of the estate is still responsible for paying the taxes.
And if all of them are dead or something, then what happens?
Then you name the heirs, quote unquote. So I generally speaking, if someone is deceased, we name the unknown heirs. Once it goes into probate, if it looks like things are happening within the probate, we try to let that process take place, but we keep an eye on it within the delinquent real estate office. And if after a while, nothing's happened within the probate process, then we go ahead and put it in the tax sale. But we try to let the probate process go through. But so even if something is, a property is in probate because the owners have an open probate, that doesn't necessarily mean that that process has to stop. I know there might be some situations where you don't want to do something with a property. It might be that they don't want to start assessing citations because they're afraid the ownership is going to change. And a lot of times that starts that whole process over. As soon as you get a new owner, you have to start over with notification on a lot of those processes when you do citations against a property. But as far as tax delinquency, you can still put a property into a tax sale even if there's a probate. But it is an issue, definitely, that I've seen come up numerous times in the tax sale process.
Commissioner Hill, you're right. Got all of your questions, or did you have some more?
Not at this time.
Okay, no, that's all right. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, and I'll add, in talking with the NRC, gosh, I think that was like my first meeting. The demolition process is very expensive and I mean, it is a budget. I mean, it really, you could spend millions of dollars trying to, go ahead and get rid of all of these properties. And so we also, try to be as mindful of that process. Ideally, it would get rehabbed, ideally. But and it is being rehabbed if that's the possibility. That's one of the reasons why most, if not the majority, I would have to say, I mean, I can count on one hand how many times, at least since I've been elected, we have a built structure on a land bank parcel that we are distributing. Most of those parcels are vacant, right? They don't have built structures on them. And that kind of speaks to the tax sale process. So there is a market, people are interested, but unfortunately it's not moving as fast as we like them to. Other questions, committee? Mr. Han, then want to ask you, I know that in our previous conversations, we had discussed brownfields and there's some beginning work on that from the unified government. If you mind, can you just share, if you don't mind, can you share just what those beginning efforts are when it comes to brownfield remediation?
Excuse me, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. The UG the unified government had requested or applied for a grant with the Environmental Protection Agency to study and remediate like a larger sum of our land bank properties to potentially remediate them. This goes above and beyond the sort of regional collaboration that we formed with Kansas City, Missouri to take in similar funding for brownfield remediation. That's an annual allotment that goes to both cities. I will say in that regional collaboration, we have increased our participation, and I think we have started to see a fair share of that regional funding coming into Wyandotte County. So that is something that is growing. We did recently hear that grant that we requested was denied. So we are working on reapplying for it and moving forward with essentially the same grant request in the next cycle. So we're preparing and updating. It's one of those things where often you don't get it the first time, you learn from it, you debrief with the feds and they tell you what you could do better the next time. And hopefully next time we can be successful moving forward. We were hoping that would be and continue to believe that will be a part of sort of the land bank strategy moving forward. Again, somewhat anecdotally, it can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 to remediate the properties where we have to assume that they were basically pushed into the basements. And removing that upfront cost is another part of everything you did earlier this evening, from reducing fees to expediting the land bank process in general. And so it's something we're attentive to. It's something we do want to fold into our land bank strategy as we move forward post the land bank policy update. Whether that be with the Douglas Sumner neighborhood or somewhere else potentially in the Northeast is kind of what we're thinking right now. Again, when we updated the Plan KCK process, it was specifically working with Douglas Sumner. We know that other neighborhoods have asked for the same sort of like strategic batching of land bank parcels. And we think this is a critical part of that.
Thank you. Committee, other questions, comments? Yeah.
Will there be other public comment, or is public comment completely closed? Or were you taking it like section at a time?
So my hope, my dream is we are sending this thing over to.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
The only reason I asked is because I just thought we'd hear more
Mhm.
than we did. We know we've received emails requesting a 60-day hold or something.
Mhm.
Nobody here tonight has asked for that.
Yeah.
So I was just curious where we were in the process of what we were doing. Sorry.
No, that's.
Can I
fine.
ask a question
Yeah.
though? 4,200 land bank lots at the potential cost of 10,000 on a good day to remediate is $42 million. So, I mean, good luck on that EPA grant. Sorry. How much was the grant for? What could we do with it if we got it?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, I think we were targeting more like 100 parcels. Again, we're looking at coming off of Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design, sorry. Coming off of what was defined in the action plan as a part of Plan KCK, we were trying to target a neighborhood, learning from the RFQ, RFP process for the 4th and Minnesota and Indian Springs site. Our thinking, both strategically and this year, is potentially in the fall coming together and identifying a couple of blocks of land bank parcels to be in that next request for proposals. Because we didn't secure this grant, we can't batch that directly with potentially this first RFP, but that doesn't mean we're not looking for sort of a longer term way to help expedite and reduce the cost for large and small developers, or just the family who wants to buy a land bank lot and build it. And so I think we will continue to look for funds to remediate. And again, I think the quick pivot is perhaps not associated with said strategy, but we are still pursuing that regional pot of money to continue to do first assessments. We have to do phase 1 and phase 2 assessments for each parcel, and then that unlocks the ability to get the remediation money. So it's not just the remediation, we have to do all the studies.
Well, and I don't want to step into the processes that you and your team have worked on, because I appreciate them. But like you said, we've got possibly contamination in most of the parcels, but yet you're going to have to identify, as you say, maybe Douglas Sumner or some strategy that's used if we say, well, maybe we can help remediate 100 parcels. And it's not going to be just the next 100 people who come in here and have a land bank application, it sounds like, right?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. Yeah, that's correct. I think that with the limited resources and the limited grant amounts as a part of that EPA program, we can't do them all. We can't make that a part of the regular approval process, but I think the goal is to, again, start strategically. I think to a degree, we've kind of had the shotgun approach. The market has kind of gone everywhere. We've started to see even tonight some more concentrated developments, but all of that cost has always been on those who seek the options. And we're just trying to make it more appealing for a developer who may want to come in and do participate in a future potential RFP. But yes, our goal is ultimately to hopefully clean up all of them, and that's going to take a lot of time.
Money.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner, I might just add briefly, Alan House, County Administrator, and just also worth noting that, when we think about the history of this, it was the federal policies that created the redlining districts that drove the disinvestment and the inability to have a functioning housing market. And then behind that was federal policies around urban renewal and then CDBG dollars that funded a lot of the demos. So there's kind of this double, triple whammy historical bulldozer, if you will. And so we're, trying to deal with that at the local level, but just, I think it's worth keeping that broader historical context in mind. And then thinking about, our current CDBG funds, or, as Gunnar was saying, other funding sources beyond just our local funding sources, which we know are tight and with lots of demands for it, to see, we didn't necessarily create this problem on our own. It's a problem a lot of other communities face. Are there ways that we can seek out support to help to address it, to lift the community up?
And if this is Wendy Green with legal, I'm sorry. Just because I've been doing the tax sales now since I got here in 2016, so I've seen a lot of the properties that go into the land bank. The majority of the ones that go into them are vacant lots, and the majority of those vacant lots have always been vacant lots. So I would not say that it is a prevalent problem that those vacant lots had demolitions that occurred on them, if that helps. So I don't know that it's as high of a number as maybe you think it is. And I know there is a way we can tell, but I think it's going to be a way in which we have to look at it lot by lot. There's not an easy way to pull it. There's no report that we can pull. It would have to be a lot by lot type of situation where we look. But just knowing what I know from what I've done at these tax sales, the majority of the way in which these properties go in are vacant lots, and the majority of those vacant lots did not have demolitions on them.
Which I think is really, really good, because I think perhaps had a meeting with a former UG employee who said apparently we did have some sort of study or something. I don't know if it's locked in the cabinet in the basement or what's going on there. But apparently there was some study or some report or whatever that did track the parcels that had the homes collapsed within. Again, we don't have that information on hand. It does give, that is a relief coming from you, Ms. Green, since you do this work every day, that a lot of these parcels do not have some of that past activity, which means that hopefully this issue isn't as grave. It's not all 4,000 parcels. Maybe we're looking at a smaller percentage. Still a problem, still an issue, still real, may not be as prevalent as we may think it is. Again, we don't know unless that process is being done. Other questions, committee? I'll also kind of respond to some of the public comments. So the Seminary Academy thing has come up. It's not the first time it's come up before us. Our school district, I think, has made it somewhat clear of what kind of priorities are when it comes to facilities, and when the bond, not passing and all that, it kind of puts them back at the drawing table. Have we been approached by USD 500 regarding land bank parcels around Seminary Academy?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So if there is real interest, my recommendation, that way it doesn't get in the way of anything, would be to just take the parcels out of the land bank. If there is interest coming from large institutions and there's been conversation, that to me would be the best way of just handling all this. I don't know what committee everybody else thinks, but instead of dealing with the whole I applied for that or you didn't or whatever, if it's part of the conversation and there's even any possibility, I think let's just go ahead and remove the parcels from the land bank altogether, if that is possible. Yes, legal.
It's always possible. The only thing, again, Wendy Green, sorry, legal department. The only reason I would caution against that is tax exemption purposes. If the property is not in the land bank and it's only in the UUG's name, if we are not using the property for exempt purposes and it's just sitting there, there is a chance that we are going to be taxed on it.
The unified government would be taxed on.
Yes, just solely owning it in the unified government's name does not make a property exempt.
Gotcha.
It has to be used for an exempt purpose. And just holding on to it in the event it could be used for an exempt purpose someday does not necessarily make that an exempt purpose. So we would need to be cautious about how we hold our property.
So does that put Indian Springs and, because not all UG owned property that's vacant in the land banks, are we paying taxes
Right.
on?
No, because we're holding, part of it, well, actually, the Indian Springs is in the land bank right now. Part of it is. Mhm.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, Mr.
Gunnar Director of Planning and Design, and I'm gonna look to legal as I say this. But the way the draft policy is currently written gives more deference to the land bank manager to keep it in the land bank, but maybe not put it on the land bank map for people to apply for options. So there's really two courses of action here. One, the school district wants the property, apply for it. And two, there is a section that says that we can keep it in the land bank, but sort of, let's just say, reserve it for future UG purposes. You could change the proposed policy to say for potential UG and other public entities purposes. And that way it's in the land bank. We don't get taxed, but it doesn't show up on the map that you can apply for.
Gotcha. And it's in line with the process of helping public entities. Again, it would be better if there was just an application that was made and we kind of knew what was going on, but also wanted to be responsive to that public comment. Other comments from staff regarding that, I would say yes, committee, if you all are good with that addition of making that slight change of, yes, UG owned or hold for UG possibilities and other public entities. I would hate for this process to put any of our partners, our public partners, the college, the school districts, what have you, libraries, at a disadvantage because we made these changes. So just trying to give maximum discretion while also being mindful of community feedback. Yes, Mr. Hand.
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design, just to gain a little bit of clarity, and I know you were going to wrap it up, but was the conversation to remove the hold policy in the current draft?
Committee, is there consensus on removing the holds or keeping the holds? I'm for removing the holds because we have the option process. Yes, that's currently within the proposed policy. There are no holds. It is just the options. Okay, but I'm getting a nod from Dr. Hill. Oh, that's the edited version. If you go all the way down to the action. Well, yeah, that is the strikeout version, but the whole, the non-strikeout version is available. Yeah, so
It's 5.7, page 12. I believe it's in there. Holds are in there.
Yeah, just
holds are in there.
Just a clarification, the request from the mayor's office was to add it back, and it is currently in the proposed draft.
Oh.
We had removed it. We had received comments from the mayor a couple of months ago on a couple of issues, including holds. So we did include that back. We did add that back to the proposed policy.
Where in the proposed policy?
5.7, page 12.
Oh, I do see.
Right. So if it's all of your suggestions to remove it, we would remove that entire section.
Okay. I did not see that.
However, just as a note, if the standing committee chose to maintain that in the draft, I did like the suggestion from Ms. Jefferson. Anybody who holds the property is responsible for its maintenance.
Yeah.
The holder, if you will.
Agreed.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm holds for large economic development projects. I mean, holds for any project. And I'm in favor of adding in that language that says the holder will maintain. And I don't know why we're specifying large. Do you have any notion of that?
Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design. That was the language suggested by the mayor's office.
Okay. Just curious that, I mean, if we've got an economic development project, we're gonna allow holds, we should allow holds. I don't know how to use my iPad. It's okay. I'm good. Anyway, just a comment, Chair, I don't know.
Yeah, committee, it's up to you all. I'm not a fan of holds because I think we have the option process, but if we want to include the holds, I do believe a mandate. And what we'll do to get through this is we'll go through the final discussion points and then hopefully land somewhere on whether or not we will adopt. So for this one, talking about holds, what is the opinion of the committee on whether or not we want to keep the mayor's recommendation?
I'm just saying, if we keep it, I want the verbiage added that holder will maintain it.
Okay.
Is required to maintain it.
Okay. Commissioner Hill? Yeah.
I'm in agreement with her comment.
Okay. So keep the holds, keep the hold policy, but if you do hold, you have to maintain that policy. Okay. Should we make this retroactive or just that is going to have an impact?
Says if you currently have a hold right now, you will maintain the property we are holding for you. Can you do that?
If you word it that, if we, well, I guess if we added a sentence that any development project that has a hold on land bank parcels must maintain that and make it a separate sentence.
Yeah. Something to the effect of the awardee.
Pro quo, right? We're gonna hold this whole area for you. What are you gonna do in good faith?
And then it also does have the provision that we did not have before, that they must come back each year to update the standing committee on their progress.
Which is what we did discuss as a subcommittee, and I'm glad that made it through. Okay, so for holds, and we'll just kind of do a general consensus. Commissioner Ramirez, I don't know if you have anything else to add on this, but for holds, we will keep the holds, the hold policy 5.7, but we will add the sentence that the hold awardee is responsible for maintaining those parcels.
Commissioner Ramirez has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with you. I'm not in favor of holds, but if we're going to move forward with holds, then I'm in agreement with the adding the provision that if we're going to hold develop or land bank parcels for development, then they must be maintained by that developer, whoever the holder is. And I agree with the retroactivity as well.
Okay. All right. Moving on to number 2, there is the addition of land bank staffing, and that is 2.8. Just to give you all kind of some some clarity there of where that is in the policy. This was a recommendation that I've made.
Chair, I agree with that.
Two.
Awesome. Okay. I don't know if Commissioner Ramirez has anything else to add there, but just for the public, the staffing recommendation is that there is one staff member for every 1,000 parcels in the land bank inventory. And that's the recommendation. Okay. The last one is the annual update for options. And I guess we can add holds to that as well, might as well. But this would be 2.7I, which says at a meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Standing Committee in the spring of every year, the land bank manager will provide an update on the progress of approved options and hold areas. Yeah, you did. See, indeed, you got it. And hold areas showing how many options were successful, how many failed, and the status of any hold areas. Yeah. Any other questions on that? So just progress will be made on these holds. So there's far more teeth and accountability to that process. Okay. I think we are ready to adopt this as a motion. Legal, if you can advise, I know we made some slight edits. What is needed for us to codify those edits and then get a vote on this whole policy?
Whoever makes the motion, I believe if you make the motion that you move to approve the policy with the addition of the edited language as discussed this evening, that should take care of it.
Okay. I'll go ahead and take a shot at this. So, Commissioner Davis, I move to approve the new land bank policy with the understanding that the edits that were discussed in this meeting will be adopted and put into the policy.
Second.
All right. There is a motion and a second to adopt the policy with the edits discussed in this meeting, June 3rd, 2024 at 8:15 p.m. Claire, can you get a roll?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Fantastic. Committee, we have done some really, really good work. So thank you all. Staff, thank you all. Mr. Nat, Mr. Hand, Ms. Green, thank you. They have been instrumental in this process. To the public, thank you all that have been watching with us. And we will see you all later. Have a good night. Oh,
Need a motion to adjourn.
Brief. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? I need.
So.
Is there a second? All right, clerk, can we get a roll call?
Roll call. Hill.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Meeting adjourned. You have a good night.